Okay, guys, welcome to another edition of Truternology Meets, and today I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Joe Barrett. Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's up, Nikki?
How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. I love the fact that we've actually caught you at home as well.
Yeah, it's a rare occurrence, but
Super
you caught
rare.
me at the perfect time.
Super rare. I mean, what have this year's been quite the whirlwind of travel and the practice grind and everything that goes with playing professional paintball.
Absolutely.
When you are home, what do you kind of fill your time with?
I actually do like the day-to-day maintenance things, going to the gym,
Gotcha.
working out, training, drilling. My gym has a turf room, so I do some agilities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's very nice. We have tires to flip, a sled to push, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So I can actually
wow.
work on.
That doesn't sound like a gym. That sounds like a
It's
playground.
it's impressive. It's just a 24-hour fitness, so I can go there any time of day and work out, do paintball related like explosive training, box jumping, all that stuff. And I have like a pool, hot tub, sauna, uh,
I see pool, hot tub,
everything.
sauna. That's my
Yeah,
type of gym.
yeah.
Box jumps? Nah, not for me. So,
I'm trying to break the stereotype, Nikki. White women can jump.
I mean, interestingly, one of the things I wanted to speak to you about was I've seen that you and the rest of the DMG guys did some stuff with stick mobility.
Yes, yes, we have been recently.
How was
We're
that?
fortunate.
Or how did that come about, first of all?
So Dr. Paintball, as he calls himself, and most people refer to him as, actually lives right near us in the Sacramento area. He
Oh,
just kind of
really?
moved up from the Bay Area,
Okay.
started to practice nearby in, I want to say, Stockton, I believe. And when he can, I don't think he plays on a team or anything, but he comes out and plays recreationally at Capitol Edge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he actually approached us and said, "Hey, I work with professional athletes on mobility, injury prevention, things like that. And here you guys are, professionals in the sport that I play for, just leisure. I'd love to play with you guys." So
Oh,
the very
wow.
first time he came to us, he did like a half-hour demo before practice, and we all loved it. We were surprised how actually challenging it was.
Yeah.
Um, but we felt great. Like you could immediately feel different like stabilizing muscles and parts that everybody bench presses and leg presses and things like that, but
Right.
not a lot of people do some of the movements that he was having us work on, just for like athletic movements and like dynamic,
Right.
you know, like postures that you might get into in your sport, like playing in the snake, for example.
Yeah.
So it really made us feel like warmed up and limbered and a lot better for that day of practice.
So the actual creator of stick mobility is a paintballer.
Not the creator of Stick Mobility.
Oh, okay.
He just supports and
Ah,
pushes the
gotcha.
Stick Mobility product. Yeah,
Gotcha. So Dr. Paintball is like a fitness guy who also plays recreational paintball.
yeah. He's actually a chiropractic doctor,
Oh,
so he gets
nice.
adjustments. Like my teammate Marvin goes to see him anytime he has like
Yeah.
any type of like injury or tightness in his back.
Funnily
Quite a few
enough,
of
I'm
them
off to the
actually.
chiropractor today.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's crazy. He always, like the guy I go to, I've probably used for like 5 years. And I always book in after paintball, after travel, after like serious paintball or after a super long flight or something like that. And like one of the most enjoyable things he does is with your neck.
Oh,
And it just
yes.
kind of like a little wiggle and it's just like,
Mhm.
whoa, that was cool.
It's amazing. And yeah,
Incredible.
that's the perfect time for it. Like most of our guys would go Sunday evenings or Mondays because
Yeah.
paintball is unlike any other sport in that you purposely throw yourself into the ground.
Yes.
And
Yeah, as
unless
fast
you
as you can.
as fast as you can.
Yes.
it is ridiculous, like the amount of beating we put in our bodies. And,
Yeah.
I feel like most of us don't notice it because of the adrenaline going, or, the
Yep.
bulk of paintball players are still relatively young and they'll surely feel it on their joints later on in life. But yeah, I mean, all the veterans I know who are 35 and older tell me, they're like, I hope you guys are wearing your knee pads and this and that, because you're not
Exactly.
feeling it yet, but you'll soon find out all those times that you full speed slid into the ground and stuck and everything just jammed, your spine, your knees, every
Yeah.
joint just stops and compresses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can damage anything in a heartbeat, is the reality. So, yeah. It's crazy when you think of it through those eyes, through those experienced eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, let's backtrack a little. Joe Barrett and paintball. Can you remember the first time you played?
Yes. I remember the very first time that I shot a gun
Nice.
with those silly blue plastic blade pump guns.
Oh, really?
Just poor excuse for a pump gun. You put the little CO2, like 12 gram
Yeah, a
cartridge
little capsule.
in that, and it was just me and like my 10-year-old buddies shooting the stop signs at the end of their street.
Oh, nice. Nice in
that-
the sense of fun with your buddies.
Yeah, but yeah, that quickly led to, around the same year, borrowing a few of their guns, going out in the woods at the end of the block, playing 2-on-2s, and
Oh, so it was full on renegade.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
See, this is what's cool. This is if you were in Europe, you can't do that.
Really?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you would get, like, say I went to the woods by my house with a paintball gun and the kids, they'd be like, what the funk are you doing? And the cops would be there before you know it. And it's like, renegade paintball just does not exist here.
I see. I mean, do people still do it? It's just rare because that could happen?
Nobody does it. Nobody does it at all. It's just like, and I think it's also a cultural thing, right? Where, like, I remember going to a Vegas NXL probably 2 years ago. And Chris Williams from Virtue was just like, we're going to go shooting. So I was like, sweet, that's cool. Like gun clubs, like ranges, all of that. Literally pulled off the side of the road.
Yeah.
And, brought out AR-15s. And I was like, what is happening?
That is America.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of... So I'm kind of... Is shocking, yet appealing, yet, adventurous that your first experience was renegade. Because, like, my first experience was rental customer in an organized group. But, there was still an edginess. There was still an anxiety of being shot and shooting people, etc. But it was just, all enticing. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess, the edginess that you guys had on your first experience must have been insane.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like a lot of people here in the U.S. start in the woods, like renegade names in their backyards like that.
Well, I mean,
it is not cool by any means unless you have a lot of property. Like,
I was just going to say, I think typically there's a lot more available property there, so it can be done in a much safer environment.
Absolutely.
Over here, you've just shot your neighbor's window by mistake, right?
Exactly.
And you're instantly in trouble.
But I mean, that's kind of close to how I started. Like, I did not grow up in an area with a lot of property.
Right.
I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And the suburbia that I lived in had a decent plot of woods, but you could hear us running around shooting paintball guns in it. So many of my first experiences playing paintball, we did get chased out by the police.
Right.
It wasn't like they were just like, oh, it's okay, the kids are playing in the woods. Like, they're allowed to do that. No, we kind of knew the risk we were taking. And when we saw people coming into the woods at a distance, we knew we had to grab everything and run.
So for all you kids tuning in, Joe played real life Fortnite, basically.
Yes.
You know? Not the video version where you just sit there and tune out. That was clock in. So, Buffalo, New York, you're a young kid getting into paintball. Who are your role models in that area at the time?
Oh man, I gotta say I was lucky because there's not a massive scene of paintball in Western New York, but I did live near a lot of the guys from Lockout.
I was just gonna say they're like Lockout and Rhythm were my two go-tos.
Yes, exactly. So all, not quite all one and the same. There was a few different generations, but
sure,
you had Knockout to start coming from the 90s, just the most legendary professional 10-man team in that region.
Yeah, by far, right?
And shooting, free flow autocockers that looked like space laser guns to me at the time with my Tippmann 98s and Piranhas and Spiders and things like that. Actually, the guy just sent me one a few months ago, and I have it next to me because I'm packing my bag for Philadelphia.
Dude,
and in the event we get knocked out,
I have the same gun.
You have the Millennium.
I have the Millennium.
Oh, good choice, Nicky.
And I've shot a lot of cockers over the years, and my favorite was always the Evolution.
Yeah,
and nothing felt as smooth as the Evolution. Until I shot this free flow. It's ridiculous.
It's remarkable. The slider trigger is perfect on it. The pneumatics are great. This thing came out of the box shooting 285, 284, exactly. 285.
Yeah, I mean, it's the paintball marker version of a perfectly cooked steak.
Precisely, yeah.
It's tasty, it's tender, and it's just perfection. It's insane.
It's the finest rare bluefin ahi tuna that you could find in the world.
There we go. I love it. So what do you got anodizing wise on that bad boy?
Oh man,
that looks a bit kind of
distance, it just looks black, like dark, but it's actually a bleach camouflage pattern.
Oh, nice.
That I had Tyler. Sorry?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, aesthetic anodizing. Hook up all of Free Flow's anodes.
Kills it.
And Tyler Fair is a buddy of mine. He does an unbelievable job. So he's like, "What do you like?" And I was like, "Oh, I've kind of always been into dark bleach. Like,
yeah,
it's like a hippie vibe, but a little bit more dark and edgy than just bright and colorful." So I was like, "Artistic freedom, do what you want." And This is what he sent me. And it's funny because, man, this gun back in the day, we're talking about those first year or two when I was playing in the woods before my speedball birthday party.
Yeah,
this gun would have been like $17.99 as a mechanical paintball gun.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this thing like, oh, Mom, Dad, if you just get me this one gun, this autococker,
and they would just
you'll never have to get me a birthday present or Christmas ever again my entire life. Like, I thought this was the end-all, be-all, because I don't know about anything else yet. And I didn't realize how far paintball guns would come to where, now just straight out of the box, we have guns like this, like a CS2, that are unbelievable technology, far more efficient, laser accurate, and shoot ridiculously fast.
Yeah. And then you've gone full circle and gone back to one.
Weird, right? Yeah.
Super cool. Some would call it weird. Others would call it super cool. This is what fascinates me is your approach to paintball is the same as your approach to life. Whatever the experience, you'll embrace it.
Absolutely.
And it's, good or bad. You can't comment unless you've tried. So you gotta get out there and do it. So Lockout were like the idols at that time, right?
Yeah. I mean, Lockout are, the OG guys of the field. Like when I first came, I think what you were really asking me is if I remember my first time playing the sport as we know it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's kind of, and it's really like what hooked you is where I'm going with this.
Yeah. I mean, because there's there's two different kinds of paintball. There's the paintball that everybody plays. Almost everybody has at least tried once, and it's a recreational hobby.
Yep.
You do it, you enjoy it. Yeah, that was a fun time, but it just doesn't. Maybe it doesn't hook you. You know what I mean? Like, even scenario players, they don't play all the time. They just go to a couple scenarios a year.
Yep.
But then I feel like I started the same way that most professionals around me that I know started. That classic cliche of, I was like 11 or 12 years old. I've already been playing in the woods here and there for a while now.
Right.
And my friend invited me to a birthday party at this indoor field nearby in Buffalo because, you know, we get snow half the year, so you have to have indoor fields.
Yeah.
And I went to this field and I walked in. You know, I wasn't overly nervous the few times I played paintball in the woods because I was into like playing GoldenEye and first-person shooters.
Nintendo 64 GoldenEye?
Oh yeah, the real one.
Oh.
And like I grew up shooting rifles with my family and things like that, so I was into shooting.
Right.
And there's something about the woods with only a few people that, you know, it's exciting, but it's not that same fast-paced, high-intensity thrill as when you walk into a paintball field and there's these corrugated tubing, tall plastic bunkers everywhere, and you hear the 10 seconds. You know, I'm walking in with my mom and dad, and I look through the netting from behind it and hear the ref say 10 seconds, and then at go, you just hear a roar of gunfire. You know, it's not people sniping a few balls here and there in the woods.
Yeah.
It's 100 balls in that first couple seconds volleyed back and forth, and the plastic is ridiculously loud with an echo inside that field. So I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. It's insane, isn't it? So your parents came with you that first official time, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't old enough to drive or anything, so they dropped me off at this birthday party, and we played for like probably 6 straight hours, and you know, that was scary. I remember being out there and quivering like a little kid would behind back center, not really wanting to leave because unlike in the woods, now that you can almost hear every ball shot and you hear them breaking nonstop against your bunker, you're like, how am I going to make a move? Like if I go to move right now, I'm going to get torched to pieces. And I'm starting to see these guns that, you know, before then I only saw like 888paintball.com catalog and things like that, like just like the pamphlets or really, really early internet searches. And now I'm seeing these guns. I'm seeing autocockers and automags and the occasional wealthy kid with like an Angel or an Impulse.
Sure.
And they're just ripping paint out there. And here I am with my right feed Piranha. Like, I'm going to die.
In the right hands, a right feed Piranha can do a lot, bud. So,
very true.
Can you recall 2 things? How long, at what point did it kind of register that this is what I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
And then at what point did your parents kind of go, we're backing you? Because, and the reason I ask this is I experienced my first official paintball when I was 12. Friend's birthday party, you know, kids just having fun, right? Instantly hooked. I knew that day that I wanted to do this with my life, right?
Yeah.
But then it took 15 years for my parents to come and watch me play.
Yeah.
Because they hated it.
Okay, so at least you'll sympathize with my story because
I mean, it's kind of like just to give you a little bit of background, my parents are both medical, from the medical profession. My dad was a doctor, my mum was a nurse. When their son decides he wants to be a professional paintballer, they're like, you freaking idiot, go and be a doctor. So it's, it fascinates me because I coach a lot of kids currently who have fantastic parental support, and it really stands out to me as, you've got such a good opportunity here to do something more
Yes.
than you are. So, yeah, sorry, I digress.
Well, I was going to ask you real quick, do you think there was a part of them from the medical field that saw this as, oh my God, he's training for war, like he's practicing army games?
No, I mean, no, I can categorically say that wasn't a concern. I think they were more concerned that, this was going to be a 5-minute wonder. I was going to spend a ton of money on gear that I would never really use.
Yeah.
I think that, reluctantly, after like 15 years, they were like, he's going to keep doing this, so we may as well embrace it.
Yep.
And I think I just wore them down. As a kid, you obviously have some pressure of education, etc. And I think I probably underachieved in some exams because I was distracted by paintball. But as a kid, you're naturally excited about whatever your passion is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I have zero regrets of the process that I took. And the decisions that I made, and I think my life would be very different if I was more focused on academics.
Absolutely. You might have already been to a certain point of financial stability that you would reach eventually anyways, but I don't think you would have I don't even think you would have 10%.
Probably not even one.
Not even one.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's, it's overlooked when parents try to put us into a certain path of life. Like they only have the best intentions. Because I remember my parents wanted me to pursue certain things, or they were never forceful, but they would ask certain ideas of like, well, maybe you should go to do like this for college. And the suggestions would always be like those classic cookie cutter preset pathways of like engineer, doctor, lawyer, things like that, where it's like you're going to make $100,000+ a year, and you're going to get the guaranteed stability of benefits like health insurance, 401k, vision, dental, blah 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 blah. But
and you're going to be bored, and you're going to be sheltered, and you're going to be
I see other people as mirrors around me. People always taught me at a young age an idiot doesn't learn from their mistakes. A smart person learns from their mistakes. A genius learns from other people's mistakes. And I'm not saying these are mistakes, but I would kind of see the routine of people around me. Right. And, some people that didn't have a good job, they weren't really able to do much with their life. They're doing enough that they're surviving and they're maintaining, but basically they're in survival mode. And then I knew other people, like some of my parents' friends, or like even my mom, who's a teacher, that make an awesome amount of money. They live in a nice house. They drive nice cars. They have an RV or a boat. But I would never see them really go anywhere except for that 2 weeks of vacation time a year. Yeah. And that's fine if, everybody has different priorities. So if you want to focus on, making additions onto your home and building up your family life and getting your dogs and having your second kid and blah, 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 that's great. But to me, I always wanted to travel and see the world and just uncover and learn as much as I could before I die. And I would think about this 2 weeks vacation time a year, and I'm like, I just wrote a blog about this. It's not enough.
I mean, this is actually a great lead-in to your blog. I discovered it 2 days ago, I think.
Yep.
And instantly read it all, and it was just one of the greatest articles that is just, it crosses over so many different areas of life. It crosses over, yes, there's the professional paintball side. Yes, there's the travel and adventure side. Yes, there's the kind of just be a good damn human side. Yeah. And I absolutely love it. And one of the things that really hit home was, do you just want to flog yourself for 50 weeks of the year so that you can have 2 weeks on a beach where you're trying to decompress from 50 weeks of stress? Mm-hmm. Or do you actually just want to reverse all of that and, defrag and lead a different life. And I think you kind of, what interests me about your statement a moment ago, you're trying to do so much before life gets hold of you. You have family constraints, you have kids, etc. I'm kind of seeing it from the other side now, in that I have the family constraints of kids and a mortgage, but my opportunities to educate and embrace life with the boys and teach them, this is what you can do with life, outweighs any downside.
Absolutely.
1,000-fold.
For sure. And luckily, you've already traveled this path that I'm currently on, where you got to travel to different cities and different countries. And I'm sure you have the thumbprint on, a spinning globe in your room. And it's like, I've seen quite a bit of this world. I've uncovered a lot of this map. And at this point, I'm okay with the constraints because I can pass on my experience and stories and the lessons I learned and the mistakes I made that should be avoided to my next generation that I'm bringing up.
I mean, some of the mistakes are the best parts.
Oh, for sure.
It's kind of the number of times flights get delayed, you lose bags, you have, your wallet stolen and have no money or whatever, right? They're actually the most fun times. You can't speak the language. That's the most fun.
It's one of my favorite times.
It's great. Yeah, it is absolutely great. I mean, I think I've actually, although I've traveled a lot, I don't think I've fully traveled until very recently. I've only recently learned to travel. And I'm kind of mad at myself because I've wasted decades of opportunity. But I also now know. And, and talking about the mistakes, I don't think I've been too keen to do the signature things when I go to places. You go to Sydney and you do A, B, and C, for example, right? Mm-hmm. The most fun is when you go off-piste and just, do what the locals do.
Yes.
Eat where they eat, street food, bars, whatever, right?
Yep.
It's just, you have to just embrace it, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much to get out there and do. I mean, even the non-paintball stuff. I would love to get up Seattle way and see, the redwoods and do all of that. Because I think there's so many overlapping opportunities. And that's what I love. That's what I absolutely love.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you what you meant by you only just started to travel, but I kind of knew that's where you were going with that. And it's so funny because we had this recently when we were, messaging there's like a synchronicity between us because I'm following a path that you've been on and we kind of have a similar viewpoint of the world where you're mentioning this now. And I literally just wrote about this today. I'm working on my second blog.
Right.
And it's supposed to be about my trip I just took to Mexico for MXL event.
Oh, but cool.
I only just touched on the actual Mexico trip because the first 10 minutes of my writing are ranting about what it means to properly travel.
Yeah.
And I think there's two ways to travel. There's the amateur traveler who, great, at least you're dipping your toes into it to start, but you're basically going to the tourist bubble. If you say you want to go to Mexico and all you do is go to a 5-star resort on the beach in Cancun and you're surrounded by
last year, by the way.
Oh, trust me, it's very nice. I've done that too. But you have all of the Americanized luxuries, conveniences, amenities, and safety features that you would expect at a resort on, let's say, coastal Florida beach.
Yeah.
Are you really seeing Mexico?
No.
Like on the globe, you're in Mexico, but you're not actually in Mexico. You're basically in an off-site version of America. And
exactly. No, you're absolutely right. Where you can drink the same things, eat the same things, still get your burger and fries, delivered to you, whatever, right? So,
yep.
yeah.
And then the other style of traveling, which, I'm only 28 years old now, but I've been doing it for, I want to say like
you got a good
5-ish
chunk of
years
life.
now.
Yeah.
And it is the funnest thing ever. Like, I've done it a few times with my other traveling friend, Harrison Fry, who's one of my favorite partners to travel with because he's very just flexible and go with the flow like me. Like, we don't care if we don't get the most convenient, nice, comfy places with hot showers and nice beds. So what I like to do sometimes, especially when I travel just by myself to events where I get picked up and hired to play with other teams, is I'll fly in several days to a week early and I won't book a hotel. I'll just fly in and I'll just wing it. And you would not believe how much freaking fun it is to go to another country. And it seems batshit crazy at first, especially when I started telling my parents about it, because they're like, how do you know you're going to be safe? You're going to get kidnapped or end up dead somewhere and we won't know. But I just believed that, like karmatic law, being a good person, putting out positivity to attract more positivity back in, that something would take care of me. Like the universe would watch out for me. And it has every time. And whether I end up at the $5 a night hostel where you just get your own little cubby for a bed, or I drop off my bags at a hotel front desk, tell them that I can't check into my room yet and my team will be there soon, and it's not even my hotel. I literally just do it to drop off my bags there so I don't have to walk around the city. And then I just leave with the tag of my bags. It's my favorite trick ever. I do it everywhere I go. I have no intention of staying at this hotel, but I know they'll put it in the back closet for me and give me a tag to reclaim it. And then I'll come back a few days later and go, oh, I'm sorry, I guess my coach, changed hotels, but here's my check thing. Can I get my bag? And they have stored my bags for free for a few days while I have wandered the city by myself.
That's a new one on me. I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, I developed that one back in 2012. And I was like, wow, I don't make a lot of very smart decisions. I'm kind of just out here winging it, but this is genius now.
That's awesome.
And then I try to just go out to social places and see what going with the flow will do to basically open opportunities for me. I read a lot of books about it, and it's called the plane of possibility, where you just live very presently and immerse yourself into the culture you're in and have no expectations or any type of direction. You don't want to choose. You just, when the right person next to you says, well, hey, come eat with us, and then you just go eat with them. And if that leads to, oh, you don't got to get a place, just crash on our couch, and you couch surf at some stranger's family's house, cool. It saves you on a hotel room. You make a bunch of new friends, and the next time you come back in that country, you now have new friends just from networking in the flow of life.
I think two things stand out from that statement: the living in the present and having no expectations. Yes. I think also often one or the other gets in the way, of the other entity. I think the expectation thing is huge. People build up, I got to go out, I got to get, I got to drink, I got to eat fine food to have a good time, I got to see, whatever, right?
Yep.
Culture that destroys that, negates that need for me. So when I went to Singapore in March, for the first 2-3 days, didn't eat in a restaurant. Everything was street food. In fact, ate in a restaurant once, and that was on the final day, just before going to the airport. Everything else, street food. Everything else as the locals do it. And it was just immerse yourself in their pace of life, because it is so different. I think the living in the present side of the statement is something that I personally struggle with all the time. You're always thinking, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Whether that's, work, life, get the car, serviced or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make dinner, whatever it is, just normal life stuff, rather than, hey, I'm outside, it's not raining, goofing around in the garden with the kids or whatever, and it's way better to just embrace all of that. I love how people are coming and going, by the way.
Oh yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
What does the note on the door say? That's what I want to know.
Oh, the note on the door? It says, trash goes out Thursday.
Nice. Always take care of the trash.
And if we don't remind ourselves, all of a sudden there will be so much garbage because I live with 5 of my teammates. It's like a DMG household here.
I mean, I was going to ask, because this is one of the most eclectic background shots I've ever enjoyed. There's the note on the door. Yeah. There's the iPhone that seems to be wedged on the wall behind you.
Yeah, that's our internet.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
I live in a super rural area out near Capitol Edge, like in like a Farmville area of outside Sacramento. Like it's all plots. People have cows, horses, and there's like some like agricultural digging and stuff for like mining and stuff. So there's only maybe like 5 or 6 houses on each block.
Okay.
And we asked them, we're like, so we'd like to get internet at the house. And they're like, honestly, there's not enough people living in this area for it to be worth putting in the $10,000, new power grid pole. So we can't offer you internet. So there's virtually no way to get like a landline internet here. So when Ben Challenger, another professional paintball friend of mine, moved here from Canada, he went crazy not having Wi-Fi in like the first 3 days flat. And he said, guys, I'm buying another iPhone and I'm leaving it plugged in, mounted to the wall with unlimited data hotspot so we can all just sign in and get Wi-Fi.
Awesome. What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy. So who lives in the DMG house? I never actually realized that this was your home. This is awesome.
Yeah. I moved here from New York, and I didn't realize that I would get the chance to live with just a bunch of my teammates. So they're not actually all from my team. Like my teammate Marvin lives here,
cool.
But I have 2 of the semi-pro guys here, Ben Challenger. Nice. And David Vasquez, who's the captain of the semi-pro team.
Oh, nice.
We used to have Thomas Kim before he moved out at the end of last year and went to Ironman. And we have my longtime best friend, Nadi. His real name is Brandon, but I call him Nadi, from Buffalo, New York. And he is also very involved in paintball. He plays, refs, stuff like that. And we just got one more semi-pro kid, Mikey, who lives in the San Fran area, just moved in like 2 months ago. Wow. So it's a pretty big ranch house. There's quite a few rooms, and we live 1 mile from our field. We don't really live near much else, but we live near our paintball field.
That's awesome.
It's great.
That is awesome. Now, DMG we'll get into in a moment. Multiple levels of that franchise, built, run by the beast himself, Dave Baines.
The beast man.
Can you remember the first time you turned pro? When did you turn pro, and who was it for?
Yeah, so I went professional back in 2012, right in the beginning of the season, in NPPL, rest in peace, and I was playing for a team called Buffalo Crush, which ironically wasn't from Buffalo. It was from Detroit area, and it was built up of me, Harrison Fry, Frankie Spinelli, you may know.
Yeah.
And the entire rest of the roster was Division III X-Ball players.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was in that last 2 seasons of NPPL when the league was kind of on its downturn. You still had a lot of good teams like Dynasty and X Factor and Avalanche, but you also had a lot of teams that just were able to afford to make the bump up. So some of these guys had never even played 7-man, and now
Right.
they were put around me to create a professional 7-man roster.
Now,
And I was very,
do you consider that turning pro? No disrespect intended, but does that really... Is that the moment that you tick that off the list? Or...
you know, I didn't tick it off the list then because I wasn't on in my eyes, a professional team. Like,
right.
I realize now because I say it about teams that jump from D3 and 4 all the way up to semi-pro. You can have the rank pro next to your name, but are you really, did you earn it? Like, are you professional in skill set? And so I felt pro that season because I held my own perfectly fine out there. Like, I won plenty of one-on-ones against top-tier players. I helped the points. And by the end of the season, we were a 2-2 team. So we were actually winning matches and doing pretty well before the league actually ended up folding. And then, it stunk because, like, those last two events, my team, once again, not a very good team, but I was starting to stand out and I was getting respect. And other professional veterans were coming up after games playing against us, and they weren't talking to the whole team, but they were like, good game. Like, you're noticeable out there. Like, I was athletic, I had good timing, my gun skills could match with most everybody I was playing against, and there was no intimidation factor there. Like, I didn't care that I was playing downfield from Dynasty or whatever. So I think people realized that, like, okay, this is somebody who, by then I had already been playing for 10 years, tournament paintball in 2000. So I've been around for a while. I'm not a professional up until this point, but in my own area in the Northeast and playing, D1 and semi-pro X-ball, like, you could say that I'm a veteran in the Northeast and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so, and I mean, your early paintball years were in the school of hard knocks, in the sense of, the New York Extreme, the lockouts, the rhythms.
Yes.
They don't care that you want to go pro. They just want to shoot you.
Yeah. And there's no divide back then because when there were regional leagues like AXPL, they didn't have rank from APPA, so I would take beatings from the guys on Titman Effect and Rhythm and Impact was in the league for 2 years. 187 was in the league. Philly Americans were my scrimmage partner when I was on Rockland Hustle in 2007.
Nice.
So while the Philadelphia Americans are winning PSP Pro events, they're coming and, beating us, but we're going point for point with them in 50-minute X-Ball AXBL.
Yeah.
So I'm used to banging it out with pro players by this time. But my first professional season where, I reached that team that I was like, okay, finally, like, I've made it. And you kind of had to make it in X-Ball. Like, 7-man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even back in the day, people kind of knew, like, it was a professional league, but, like, pro X-Ball with the franchise teams was where it was at.
Yeah.
So when I went to Tampa Bay Damage in 2017, like, not only did I reach pro, but kind of, like, fulfilled this lifelong prophecy that I had been working towards of trying to get on a particular team that I always wanted to play with. Damage was such a legendary team since they came in. They dominated semi-pro, and then they came into pro and won their very first event. So it was like, man, that was that badass group of guys of ridiculous gunfighters and just tough, nitty-gritty, Florida boys with a couple elite pickups that used to be on, like, stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking that some players go pro and they stay with that team, that group, for their entire career. Let's take Justin Cornell from Impact. I couldn't name any other team he's ever played for. Mm-hmm. And I can't see him ever leaving to play for any other team. Sure, they're winning now, and have had a great 5-10 years most recently, but prior to that, they were an up and coming, just kind of grow and learn together philosophy. I think it takes a lot of character to actually realize and then admit that this team I'm currently with isn't the right fit for me, whether that is personality-wise, a shared goal, or, a shared understanding of how the team wants to evolve, and then make a decision to move. And you've literally gone coast to coast in recent years.
Yeah.
How, if you don't mind me asking, how did that come about? What was the catalyst that made you think, Joe, you kind of, yes, you're playing pro with a respected team, but it's not right for you? Mm-hmm. What made you realize that?
Two different things. I think we've talked about it before, and it's a good question because a lot of people ask me about it, including my own parents, who thought I was crazy at the end of that season when I was like, I'm leaving Damage. And they're like, Joe, you moved there and worked so hard to get on this team. You went through their semi-pro squad,
yep,
and you rose to the top, and they chose you, and we were third best in the world that season. Like,
sure.
We went to every event, got fifth, third, second, third, fifth. So when I told them I wanted to leave a top 3 in the world team, they were like, are you leaving for the first place team? And I was like, no, I'm going to play with the new rookie pro team that all my friends play for out of Sacramento. And a lot of people thought that I had lost my mind completely.
Okay.
I think a lot of it, what it has to do is like your priorities as a person, because some people just want to be on the very best team.
Yep.
Some people just want to win, whether they're playing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just want to have fun, and they don't care if they win at all as long as they're playing with their buddies. Sure. And they don't care if they don't ever move up divisions. They're just trying to play at some level because they're competitive, but they're more about the camaraderie and experiences, And I kind of have a mix of all this. Like, there is a competitive side of me that has known how to work hard for like 17 years now and wants to be at the pinnacle of the game. But that was kind of one aspect that made this choice seem like what was right in my heart rather than just what's right on paper. And like the logical choice is, when I got on Damage, it was almost like I fast-tracked to success and skipped a bunch of steps. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
When you get brought on to a top 4 team in your very first year pro, rather than get brought on, no disrespect to any of these teams, but sure, it wasn't like I got picked up by ML Kings or Boom or Outlaws or one of the teams that's lower ranking, Aftershock at the time, and then had to be like their standout guy for one of the top tier teams to grab me. It was like, no, I came and showed like my talent level and was worth being grabbed by a team that was already there, which like still baffles me somehow. And I'm very grateful that like it worked out that way and it all paid off. But my point is, right off the back, I didn't know what it was like I went from, playing and learning to win semi-pro level to nothing but Sundays in the professional level. And
yeah,
what I realized by that is when you're playing with one of those top 4 teams, especially a team like Damage that generally runs a starting 5, like they have a very tight core and they're going to run their version of Damage unless they're way up points. Whether you're playing or not, whether you're producing or contributing to the performance or not, they're going to do as good as they're going to do. And it's kind of like you're just along for the ride.
Right.
Like the best we ever did, when we got second place, ironically, I played the most. I played like 17 points that event. And a lot of it was because Jacob, who was stunting, got a game suspension, and me and Mikey had to fill in and play more points that next match until he got back. But aside from that, the other 4 events, I could have sat the bench the entire time, or I could have played more points. And either way, with these super solid, intelligent, seasoned veterans around me, we were going to do that good either way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of like I feel good to be up there, but I'm like, have I personally earned this yet? Like, or am I just riding the coattails of this legendary, phenomenal paintball team that's just always going to be this consistent?
Right.
And I knew that if I went to any other, lower than the top 8 consistent Sunday teams, I would get a chance to actually go through all those lessons and learn it the hard way. And yeah, it would suck maybe not making Sunday for a few events or even a whole season. It was almost a whole season till I made Sunday with DMG at World Cup. But along the way, I got to learn all those lessons and get to those almost going to beat this team. Oh, not quite. Shit. Maybe we won't make that one extra mistake next event in that winner go home match.
Sure.
And I didn't skip by them that time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And also, by coming onto one of those teams as like a key producer, like now it's like you're moving on because of you. Like now it's up to you and your buddies who are learning and slowly growing and improving together to it's literally on you now to get you to Sunday or to hopefully get close to winning the tournament or win the tournament, rather than like the other way where if you're on an Impact, Dynasty, Heat, Damage, one of those teams, like it's not really on you. You might come in and really clutch out when you get your spins, but like you're probably not going to be in too many of those 1-point game situations where you're the reason that you win the tournament, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think very few players have that ability when they get their spins. The one guy who really stands out for me in the past couple of years is Nico Hyde. Who has an amazing ability to consistently play appropriately.
Yes.
You know, and that's very few and far between. Very few and far between. Was there ever, during your time on Damage, was there ever a period that you knew you were going to leave? You didn't know where you were going to leave, but you, like, from a personal perspective, if I'm on a team that I know isn't the right fit for me, there's a point where I mentally draw that line and I know I have to move on.
Yeah.
Now, I may play another event with them. I may play another 3 events because of, roster locks, whatever, right? But mentally, that line's been drawn and I'm in a different place. In the sense of, I'm probably appreciating everything that's good. I'm hopefully appreciating everything that's good. As in, I'm playing with these 4 guys, 7 guys, whatever it is, and I can learn this from them. Did that occur with Damage? Did you reach the point where, like, I'm playing with Timmy Props, I'm playing with Holiday, I'm playing with, Jason and Jacob. What a great opportunity to, extrapolate things from their games, learn these skills, almost, Paintball's version of Pokemon. You're playing with the masters and you get, unlock these skills.
Yeah.
Did that happen, or was it were you too in the present to actually do that?
You know what, that's a good question, and that kind of led me to answer your initial, like you had 2 questions before of why I left the team, and that was the other reason is sometimes you can feel if something's a fit for you or not. You know what I mean? And
right.
And I had always wanted to be on Damage since 2009, the first time I saw Damage coming out and just pummeling people.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to play with those guys, with Chad Bougier, with Jason Edwards, just these gun-related phenoms that I knew I could learn so much from. And then by the time I joined them, it's almost another decade later, I was like, dude, I'm going to soak up like 100 years of combined pro experience here. I'm just going to try to learn everything I can.
Sure.
And that's what I did. I was very present in just taking every lesson I could with them. I didn't feel like there was a time that I drew the line while playing with them.
Right. It happened after.
It felt different to me, but I don't know if you knew this about me, but I've played with like over 75 paintball teams.
Oh, that's awesome. That's such an awesome statistic.
A lot, yeah. It's weird because most people are like, yeah, I've only ever played with this one team and I'm going to retire with them.
Yeah.
Or they played with, they played with their beginner buddies team. They moved to national paintball and then they got that big opportunity. They played for like 3 to 10 teams.
Sure.
But I've played in around 20 leagues And it wasn't like I was unloyal or just an opportunist, but I knew that I wanted to get somewhere in paintball. But then when I got to that area, I also so there was like a shift. Like I wanted to like traverse through paintball to the teams that were on the same wavelength as me. Like teams that, if I was on a team and they didn't want to put in that extra effort to get better and do, we went 1-3 the next event. Well, guys, let's work harder for 2-2 next event. And even though we just lost, now guys are just skipping practice. I knew that was not the kind of team for me because I wanted to work harder, and guys are slacking off and they're thinking they're going to get better results. That's insanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Agreed. So I went through a lot of teams looking for that team of 7 to 10 guys that were on the same mindset and priority level of succeeding and going pro as me while I was an amateur and semi-pro player.
Gotcha.
But then at the professional level, like now I'm here, I'm established. I've had a good season or two from NPPL and then from NXL with Damage.
Sure. I
know that I'm going to play at this level. It's kind of a boys' club at a certain point because once guys have seen you perform, they know what to expect of you, and now they know that they'd rather there's less risk taking you or like grabbing those pro players that they know are leaving other pro teams than grabbing someone new from a divisional camp that you're not sure if they're going to perform or choke in pro. You're not sure how committed or dedicated they are unless you've seen them around your field for 5 or more years, and you don't know their financial situation, what they're willing to commit and sacrifice. Yeah. There's a lot of things to keep you in the pro in our sport,
Yeah.
There's those kids that they know are more than talented enough, but man, one year this kid's doing great in school or great in work and whatever, and the next year this kid's always broke, can never afford practice unless it's the mandatory practice.
Sure.
Well, they're not going to grab that kid, you know what I mean? So anyways, once I knew I was like an established pro player, obviously I want that home feeling. I want to feel like I'm family and we are more than just teammates, but like we're going to be people that I can live and be around, almost like the stories that inspired me of like teams like Dynasty and Trauma and guys like those back in the day that half of them all lived in the same house, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're writing the next chapter.
Exactly. I'm not trying to make the next Dynasty, but I am trying to be a part of the next team that's like that, where it's like you're not just guys that get together and you see each other for layout weekends and then like, all right, well, I'll talk to you guys later, or maybe we'll talk on the phone, but I won't see you guys till next practice. I like to constantly be hanging out with my teammates because I know the more time that I spend communicating with them and building chemistry, what we lack in experience right now compared to those top-tier teams that are playing pro, only some of my guys playing just paintball, clearly there's a difference there in experience. But what we will make up in the next 2 to 5 seasons by being closer and just talking more, like we talk about all the time, we're like, we just got to be better friends than these other teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, very, is such a key area of performance. If you have that trust and that bond with your teammates, you can achieve infinitely more than if you're thinking, that guy's a douche, I'm not going to look over him and watch that lane or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like reverse engineering your team to like, rather than grabbing a bunch of star-studded athletes and trying to make them into a team, you grab a bunch of friends who are basically already a team, whether they play a sport or not. They work together, they work out together, they go hiking, camping with it, and make them work at the paintball stuff, which is almost easier because if you all know each other, well, now your communication and teamwork is good. So now you just have to your know-how is good. Now you just have to drill and work on the fundamentals and the execution of your teamwork.
Exactly.
Which is what we get to do a lot of because we all live either with each other or right in the vicinity of each other, and we live right near our paintball field, so we can go drill and work on those teamwork things together. Like another thing is once you're at the pro level, fundamentals are very minute in differentiation between player to player. Like the very best gunfighter in pro isn't that much faster or more accurate of a snapshot than the very worst pro player I could think of.
Correct.
That you've all earned that professional level from 10,000 hours of play and repetition and muscle memory. So at this point, it's more important to just be around each other, to practice how you talk to each other, and when things go wrong, how you fix things with each other rather than just blowing each other off or exploding on each other. Like how easily you can adapt to each other's flaws.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the difference between the best and the worst in terms of the fundamentals isn't that big. It's that processing ability, not even the rate. It's, just the ability to go, this happened, we didn't want this to happen, how do we fix that?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can do that in 2 minutes. The best can do it in 20 seconds, and also transfer that information in a digestible manner to their teammates or coaches or whoever. Yeah. And it's fascinating. So, off-season of 2017 is when you left Damage.
Yep.
And went to DMG.
Correct. Oh, no. Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah, the season. Yeah, the off-season.
So it was like after Cup 2017.
It was a little bit after Cup. I was still living in Florida for a bit, but I was thinking about all those lessons, and I guess to finish my point of the second reason I left, which is feeling where you're home, like where your fit is. Like, I don't think it's any surprise or secret here to people in paintball that know you and know me by now that I'm kind of a hippie. Like,
right.
I won't even say kind of a hippie. I'm a hippie. Like, right. It's not like I live in the forest or anything like that, but like my mindset is very open-minded. I'm a very positive talking person. And to me, even a loss is a lesson. So like, I kind of have this adaptable mind to where there is no bad. Like, good is good, bad is learning. So I could be happy with almost anything. And a lot of very hyper-competitive people, or people that have just been like conditioned to a certain way of thinking from not having an open mind towards that viewpoint, they see you as, of course I'll be emotional in the moment after a loss, but after that I'm already thinking about the lessons and reflecting on what I'm going to do to change it.
Sure.
Whereas they're pissed, and now they're pissed off that their teammates are content with second or third or with anything less than success. Like, well, we're not happy unless we win. And so I have like nothing against the Damage guys at all. Like, I can't stress enough how much love I have for those guys and the amount of respect I have for those dudes as people and as a team, because they're the legends that used to be on the posters on my wall, and they still maintain that very high level of like excellence that they want to achieve. And I love that, because even though most of them are all family guys now, they still just hold themselves to such a high standard that it pushes you to get unbelievably good compared to how you were before you came on if you want to get any play time. They have plenty of guys in that team who got 0 to 5 spins all season on seasons before I came on, and they just didn't push themselves to get the more spins. And I worked a little bit harder to get more spins each event I played with them. But, beyond that part, like, there's a certain aspect to like what people around you have to feel like to be your vibe. You know what I mean? And once again, I love the Damage guys, and there is no right or wrong. It's not like my side is right or wrong, or I'm the right one, but those guys are your classic, typical Florida boys. You know what I mean? They are to the bottom. They are hardcore, tough love Florida dudes. And I am almost like, even though I wasn't born in Cali, I'm like a go with the flow NorCal hippie.
Right.
So
right. I was just going to say, it was as much as you weren't the right fit for them as they weren't the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was, long term, it was never a good fit, but it was a great opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. Great opportunity, great learning experience. But I mean, I have history with you because of that season, because you were one of our sponsors, and you were always around us. And I'm sure you probably noticed the weird difference in energy in that.
Completely.
DMG are a bunch of guys that are, one, they are, it's not like they're all introverts, but they're, or like overly cliquey, but they just want to be with their group. At the event, they want to be their 7 or 8 dudes walking around. And then there's me over here who knows and talks to almost everybody in the league from divisional up to pro.
Yeah.
So there's this one socially extroverted, like, social butterfly. Yeah. And then there's other dudes that really could care less about talking to anybody else unless they're at the autograph signing. And it's not because they're jerks or anything like that, but, like, they just want to do their thing with the people that they're comfortable with. Yeah. Whereas I love meeting and talking to everybody from everywhere.
Sure.
And then the other side is like that year, you remember that year, that was the meanest team in paintball. Matty was saying it constantly. They were like, man, Damage is back with a chip on their shoulder, overshooting people, throwing up the bird in matches.
Yeah. People are, it all happened.
Are screaming and cursing in all of our chants. And then you have this one really nice, positive rookie player. And I felt out of place half those games because, like, win or lose, I'm coming in and I'm like, won that point. Hell yeah. Lost that point? Shoot, that's the mistake I made. Very logical, critical thinking. This is what I'll do to improve next point. Whereas everybody else who loses that point comes in, let's motherfucking kill those turds. Like, they want to go out and hurt that other team.
Sure.
Whereas I want to hurt the other team, I want to outsmart and out-chess match the other team. To me, I don't want to inflict any pain to them. I just want to anticipate their mistakes, punish them, at the end of the game, be like, I played a better chess game than you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that difference right there was weird because I was like, man, how did this happen? Like, I'm like, what most people have, at least that know me would probably agree, like one of the friendlier people in pro paintball, because I'm not one of the sports that played in like the chain gun each other's face off and getting fist fights game. Like I was just a 10-year-old kid back then, and I'm playing with the meanest team in the sport during the season. So, just not quite the fit of personalities.
No, at the same time, 2017 season, DMG were dominating in semi-pro.
Semi-pro, yeah.
And they won the right to play pro for 2018.
Correct.
So putting myself in your shoes, you knew that you were going to another pro team?
Not quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Not, it's funny because I remember having that thought.
Oh, correct me.
Right. We got knocked out second round by Impact in World Cup.
Yeah.
First or second round, I think. Had to be second round. And I remember most of the Damage guys, another reason that we weren't a perfect fit is like they're in a different stage of life than me. A lot of those guys are in their 30s. They have wives and kids. I don't. I'm a young, bachelor without children. So they're all starting to go off with like their wives and kids and strollers. And at this point, because there's no team meeting, we're already knocked out. We had our team meeting right after that game. I'm free to do what I want. So I walk over to the semi-pro area where I have a ton of friends. All the NYX guys, the DMG guys, Distortion guys from Canada. And I see DMG playing their game to move out of semifinals. And they win. And I was just watching them, watching my good friends who I used to play against for like 5 or 6 straight seasons in semi-pro. And during my off times, I would go out and hike with these guys. And I had a really good relationship with all of them, as even though I wasn't their teammate, I was really good friends with DMG for like 6 straight years before I went to Damage. And I remember seeing them win that game, and I didn't know they were going to win World Cup yet. They still had to play another match. But right then and there, they already secured their pro spot. And, I remember the wheels were turning in my head, and I was like, man, all my really close friends, Damage are becoming my friends, but, they're more my idols that I respect, and I get the opportunity to play with.
Sure.
Whereas DMG are a bunch of my best friends that I've went to music festivals and camping trips with and stuff, and now they just went pro. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool if that happened down the line, And then I always stay after events, and for so long, like all of my guys on most every team I've been on, whether they win or lose, they catch their red eyes on Sunday night. And I don't want to like risk missing a flight or being at a flight stinky after going to a finals game.
Sure.
So I just always get my flights for Monday or Tuesday. And I'll get the extra day to like actually adventure around the area, you know, see some stuff, do things, because now I have time and I'm not focusing on the tournament. And so for the past several years, I have been going out to players' parties after each event with DMG.
Oh, nice.
It's a tradition. So now at World Cup, I go out with DMG, who are celebrating their World Cup win and their new professional spot. And they are ecstatic, and I could not be happier for them as my friends. Like, I remember having one of the best times that night because it's like, dude, I'm so proud of you guys. Like, you know, like now you're up here and maybe we'll get to play against each other this year. And most every one of them, you know, were joking around about it with me. They're like, so you want to come play pro paintball with your boys yet? Or what's up? Like,
that's sweet.
Yeah, and I was like, man, like, I don't know if that's a serious offer, but it's going to be a long off season. I'm sure we'll talk more and more. I'm sure I'm going to see some of you guys when I come, like, take a week visit to Sacramento or San Fran in the off season. So we'll see what this progresses to. And that's why at the time I didn't have any thoughts of leaving Damage during the season, because the only other teams I would have ever left Damage for, even if like I really didn't like the atmosphere, which I'm a chameleon on paintball teams. From being on 75 teams, I know how to get along with almost any kind of people.
Sure.
So the Hero Boys aren't my exact fit, but I know how to mesh in with them and, you know, like give it back when they're giving me shit and whatever. Like,
sure.
It's not that big of a deal. Of course they're going to pick on me more than everyone else because I'm a rookie, but like, I can take it. And I think that's why they dished it out a lot that season. Like, a lot.
I can imagine.
You probably know some of the stories. It was ridiculous.
I can.
But anyways, even if it was horrific things, I probably wouldn't have left, because the teams that I would join, which would be like all of my good friends in paintball that have been around the semi-pro level as long as me, which would be DMG and NYX, they're still semi-pro.
Sure.
And I told myself that once I went pro, I had seen some of my other friends who went pro and got cut. Or they went pro and then real life stuff hit. And they just got there to that pinnacle point they had wanted to their whole life. And they either squandered the opportunity or whatever, real life stuff happened. And they didn't get to follow it and see how far the rabbit hole went. And I was like, no, when I go pro, I am lasting. I'm going to stay relevant. And I'm going to play minimum 10 plus seasons. And before I retire, I'm going to win pro events, win a World Cup, whatever. You know what I mean? So, like, those options in my head, we had even joked about it earlier in the season. Like, for several seasons while I was in semi-pro, I had talked to DMG about playing with them. But when I went to Damage, I was like, all right, fate's kind of sealed. I guess I'm with Damage or some other top-tier pro team now. And DMG was semi-pro. But when DMG won a pro spot, it was like, whoa. Now I could actually consider that, because I'll get to play with my friends and keep playing pro, which is like requirement number one on my list. I'm not going back down below pro anymore. Not out of a sense of entitlement or anything like that, but just because I want to follow this out to the end, so I know that there's no what if at the end of my life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's fair comment. Now, 2018 was the first rung on that pro ladder for DMG, in the sense of this is a new environment. Sure, you know, the game's the same. The field that we played finals on in World Cup is now what we play every day, you know. But I imagine mentally it was the steepest learning curve for the guys.
Hands down.
Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
If you had to summarize your 2018 season, how would you?
Yeah, I'm not going to summarize it in one word, but I guess the short and sweet way to summarize it before going more in depth or more back and forth is learning and growth.
Right.
That was a season that I knew it was going to be disappointing as far as placement compared to the season I just had.
Right.
I just came off of maybe not what Damage guys consider successful, but in my first professional career,
it's a great debut.
All Sundays and getting all 5 events. You know, I have a bunch of medals all over my wall from professional paintball.
Exactly.
Which I have not got yet in the past year and a half with DMG. We got first last, but I haven't got a medal or a trophy yet. Well, stepping right into pro, I'm already getting medals.
Yeah.
So from that, of course, it's going to be like kind of disheartening when it's like, man, I just went from last event, I got 5th at World Cup, and this event I'm going to get probably 15th or somewhere in that like middle of the pack, maybe bottom middle of the pack.
Yeah.
We're the new rookie guys. But at the same time, it's only in contrast that it was disappointing, because as far as a first season for the typical rookie pro team, it was, you know, it wasn't exceptional, but it was great.
It was respectable for sure.
Yeah, we got better every event. We went from 1-3 to barely 2-2 to a solid 2-2, like basically break even 0, to we had almost all 2-2s that season, but every event we got better at basically banging it out with the top tier teams in our bracket, so we wouldn't get goose egged or like lose bad matches anymore.
Sure.
And that would make our plus minus better until eventually World Cup, when we did good enough by 7-0 in 2 teams to move on and make Sunday. Absolutely. So our progression was steadily upwards, which is all you can ask for when you go up. You know, I've coached a lot of teams, 100%. And I always tell division teams that like, guys, you can't just move from D3 into D2 and expect to win. So if you go 0-4 this event, little goals. Next event, go 1-3. Next event, go 2-2.
Absolutely.
Next event, go 3-1 and hopefully make Sunday.
Absolutely.
After that, hopefully podium. And as long as you learn from the mistakes and losses that you have, and you get progressively better each event, then there is some success there, because your losses are slowly becoming more wins.
Oh, most definitely. Now, here's one for you. Fast forward to the 2018 off season.
Mm-hmm.
You've all survived the rookie pro year.
Yep.
As DMG. Now you lose 2 players in Thomas Kim to the Ironman.
Yep.
And Tim to Impact.
Yep.
My initial question is, how did they approach that opportunity with regards to the team? So, for example, Ironman and Impact are no slouches when it comes to recruiting talent. They'd obviously assessed, you know, both of them for the season and thought, you know, they would be a good fit for us. They would help us with A, B, and C. Were both Thomas and Tim up front with the team? And like, guys, you know, we've had a good year, but we need a different challenge. Or did it go down differently?
You know, normally I try to speak 100% real, but on some aspects, it's not always my place to give some details.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I think maybe that was, I put that across maybe too intrusively. What I'm trying to get at is, in the workings of a pro team, how do people deal with the fact that you're going to lose a teammate who you've had, you know, a shared year, a shared rookie pro year with?
Yeah.
Because that's a big hit.
What I can say is, like, regardless of if it would have been as transparent as I would have done it, or as, you know, as you would like it to happen for one of your teammates, reasons are justified.
Sure.
You know, like,
I mean, that's cool. I mean, I think that's a better way of approaching it, actually. Would you have handled things the same way? Is probably...
You know, it's hard to tell, because if I was them, but as me, no. You know what I mean? Like, it's different situations depending on the person.
So I mean, that's a fair
yourself
answer.
In their shoes, and in that way, like, I think we all respected what they did, and in my opinion, if you're really friends with somebody, you want what's best for them, regardless of if it serves your purpose or not.
Yeah.
If you're
Agreed.
only friends with them, as long as they're doing things that are like, also even slightly beneficial to you or hopefully more beneficial, then that's just like kind of having a use for them. And as soon as they like say, hey, listen, I need to do what's for me, you're like, oh, well, screw you. Then you're not really friends, So like it sometimes means you're about to not have them as teammates anymore. But I'd rather not lose people in my lives as friends, or at least somebody that I want to like be able to talk to cordially. I'm not going to cut people off for reasons that like I don't know their full personal situation. I don't know what little things maybe they aren't keeping up, but like Thomas had to make a life change and wanted to move to San Diego and go back to school, and or like LA area or wherever down there.
Sure.
And what team is right down there? Ironman. It makes sense. How is he going to come back and forth as easily to practice, with us? Like even before being on DMG, I knew I wanted to move to Northern California for a life change and just to look for more opportunity.
Right.
And there was still a little bit that I was thinking about damage. Like I hadn't committed yet until like the very end of the off season, right before that season started.
Right.
But when it came down to it and I was already over here and I was talking to some of them about it, I'm like, and they were straight up with me. They were like, we'll still have you on as long as you can make practices, but we can't cover like your practice travel, like your flights for just practices. And it's like, dude, this is just now it's the really obvious answer to play with the team that's right here that I could become closer with and practice more with and become part of it.
Yeah.
So exactly. Him, it's like, who is he gonna be like able to play with us as much down there? And if he doesn't and we keep him on and he only just plays the bare minimum mandatory practice, is he going to get the spins like he used to? Like, who knows? Sure. Whereas with a team that he lives right near and he can practice with all the time, he can. And then Tim, a little bit different situation, but like Tim is married and a homeowner and wants to start a family. Like he's around that time period in his life where like him and his wife have been talking about it for enough time that like, they're ready to have kids soon.
Had enough of practice, and it's time to compete.
And exactly, like if you're at that point, and Impact is offering you a spot, and now you're going from like pretty much free paintball to paid paintball.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now you can actually make money from paintball rather than like still paying for a few things here and there, and that extra money can go towards like being put away for like your upcoming kids' future college degree or whatever. Like I imagine, though I'm not a father or a soon-to-be father, but I know those thoughts are going through his mind at that time. So like, man, I remember I was like, dude, really don't want to lose you, because like Tim was one of the people I knew the longest. Like Tim and Josh were some of the main reason that I moved here to play for this team. And a lot of the other guys were like a year or two after I got close to them too. Like Marvin, and then eventually Thomas from playing in Malaysia with him. Like slowly but surely I learned the whole roster, but those were my immediate too, from like camping and hanging out and just just talking at events and staying after at like players parties. And when Tim was going to leave, I was so much of me is like, dude, Tim, just hear me the right way, that I don't want you to go because I don't want to lose you as a teammate, and also because you're easily top 5 snake front players in the game at any given moment. Like, he's super underrated even still. People don't realize how slithery and deadly that dude is in the snake. Even when he was supported by us and we were on a top tier team, Tim is just stacked.
I mean, it's an interesting. I think both are interesting pickups for a variety of reasons. Tim is obviously playing under the shadow of Mouse and JC.
Yeah.
Snake side. But, knowing Bart and Dave and how proactive they are at cultivating talent, I don't think that this is, a one season deal. This is, let's get some longevity in the squad.
Oh, yeah.
And, I don't want to call it an apprenticeship to kind of diminish Tim's ability, but in essence, he's serving an apprenticeship under 2 of the best.
For sure. He's grabbed for a reason, and I think they know it's a long-term thing. And even if he got no play time this season, he will get honed and he will be pushed further than our bench riding snake player could push him, because if he wants to earn playtime, now he has to get better or at least more
step up. Yeah.
And at the same time, that pushes Mouse because there's this really talented young up and coming rookie pro player who's holding his heels.
Exactly.
So, like, same thing with what I mentioned before. Like, as Tim's friend, I don't want him to go, but I want him to go. And we're telling him, we're like, Tim, you have to accept this opportunity. Do it for the sake of your wife and for the responsibilities of real life. If our team was able to pay him, he would stay with DMG. He'd be DMG for life. He's still DMG at blood, and I know he loves us all, and he still helps us whenever he can input. Like, he's still one of my best friends, and he still lives with one of my teammates. So I still see Tim several times a week. Like, nothing's changed on our personal level.
Oh, cool.
So we talked about that. We're like, dude, we're still going to hang out just as much. It's just that now we won't be hoteling and playing at the event.
Sure.
But our day-to-day lives and weekdays, I still live right near Tim. So, like the good at heart and wanting what's good for him side of me and all of us was like, Tim, if you turn this down, we will kick you off of DMG to go there because we need you to go there. And we just, he does his stint till he's at a point where he's financially successful enough that he doesn't need that anymore. And then he just returns home to us several seasons from now.
And that's such a cool outlook to have on the situation. I like that a lot. So, we're filming this the week of the Philly NXL. DMG, this will be, third event of the season?
This is the third event.
Talk us through the first two. You kind of, first event from an outside perspective, you had a bit of a shocker in the sense of, I don't think you got the results that you feel you deserved or that others feel you deserved. Second event, you guys clocked in.
Yep.
That was seriously, we are accountable. It was full on, we recognized that we messed up at event one. Most importantly, you recognized how you messed up and you fixed it.
Yep. Well, this is exciting to talk about because I guess I haven't talked about it in this setting, just in, little Instagram posts I go about it's part of the journey right now. Like, we're in the process. We respect it. We realize that we're taking a step back to move a step forward. Just like I've learned to accept and do in the past. And once you do it once, you know when you have to do it again, and it's easier to accept and let go of your expectations and just do what has to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So bridging from that last season where we lose, two of our star players and, guys that are cores of the team and guys that brought the team into professional paintball. So now it's still the same team as far as there's still 5 or 6, like there's a core starting line on it, but it's not quite the team that went its way up from semi-pro. It's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
And so we had 2 of our guys up from semi-pro, Dylan Boyum and George McLean, who are talented, athletic players with gun skills, but they're semi-pro guys.
Sure.
And they had only played 1 season in semi-pro, whereas the DMG boys and myself, we grinded our teeth.
Exactly,
for
right?
6+ seasons in semi-pro.
Wow.
Whether it was winning or at least going to constant Sundays, like, we knew what it was like to play proper paintball, like the right chess game. Because the jump from D2 to semi-pro is the biggest jump in my opinion. Like, D3, D2, people are still not quite sure at staying disciplined on their jobs. They're very flip-floppy. There's a lot of talented players out there that rely on gun skills and aggression, but they're kind of just beating teams because they're better heads up than the other team.
Yeah.
Whereas in semi-pro, the game is played properly. People hold the right zones. People shoot more paint to stay, like, locking their jobs off. People know bounce shots. People know counter punches. And then the difference to pro is just the pace. Now, all of a sudden, pro, like, if you play a semi-pro game in fast forward, that's what a professional game looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Professional, it's like guys
Yeah.
are doing everything right, and as soon as they see like, oh, that player was shot or put in, they switch gears and they make the proper move off it. Whereas semi-pro, guys make the right move, but they do it very, very slowly and methodically. Like they put a guy in, empty a few more pods at him.
Yeah. I mean, semi-pro's like driving an automatic. Pro is driving a stick shift.
Yep.
You know, there's times where you got to double D shift. There's times when you got to really pedal to the metal and go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the switching gears is, and that was the biggest problem that our team had to get used to in the first season, you know? But, so these semi-pro guys come in with 1 year semi-pro experience.
Okay.
And we know that it's going to take them a little bit, you know? So once again, in your mind, at least for like the veterans on the team, like Josh, Shane Howe, and like me, I've played, a decent amount of pro paintball at this time. Like, we already know in our head that, of course, you set your mind towards succeeding. If you don't believe that you can do it, you've already lost. Now there's no way to do it. So we're going to put as much work in as we can and believe we can do it until proven otherwise. But we already have the idea in our heads of, like, we're in the journey here. And part of the process is going to be, like, this semi-rebuild period and, like, figuring out where people's roles have to switch around to cover those roles of the guys that left, and to acclimate these new dudes in and find kind of where their place is in the team. You know what I mean? Like, we understand that there's going to have to be some changes, and it's not going to go smoothly because it's not like we're making changes against semi-pro teams. We're making changes where if you make mistakes, they are punished drastically by those elite top 10 level teams.
And consistently, right?
Yeah.
You don't make a mistake and get away with it.
We're still going to win games against like the bottom 4 to 6 teams solely because some of us are going to outplay some of them position to position. Or guys like Shane Howe who have a lot of winnability are going to clock in and save us in points that we have no right winning. Yeah. Which, him and a few of us...
Which he regularly does.
So. Exactly. Like, and that's like now we're not even back to playing the game properly yet or utilizing all of our pieces of our machine correctly.
Yeah.
But there's this one piece of the machine over here that's constantly in 6th gear, and it's helping us out when the rest of us is dragging behind. So
Shane Howe is like the Peter Pan of paintball. He doesn't know that he's older than 19.
He does not. Shane Howe is a vampire.
He's probably 65, but he just keeps churning.
On the low, Shane Howe is like 3,000 years old. Like,
he's Master Shifu.
Yeah, he was playing paintball against people with crossbows back in Dracula's time. Like, this dude is immortal. This dude does not do anything in particular in terms of his diet or workout or go for runs. He has a big family. He runs a business, and supposedly he only sleeps 2 to 4 hours a day.
Wow. But
he still only plays the snake front, and he outlasts most of the young up-and-coming kids.
Exactly.
He's immortal.
Speaking of grandmasters, talk to me about Terrence Fong.
Terry Fong.
Because Terry is, for viewers who don't know, Terry's got so much history in paintball with Bob Long's Iron Man as a player. And he's probably as much of an unsung hero as the DMG squad is. In essence of, there's no one on DMG, and I mean this entirely with no disrespect, who you would instantly go, this guy's going to be a kill count leader. Because everybody specializes at doing their job. Nobody's there for themselves.
For sure.
And it's not to say, the kill count leaders are there for themselves, but there are professional players who play with a selfish attitude.
Yeah.
There are professional players who play with a much broader team mentality.
Yes.
And then there's everything in between. From an outsider's perspective and a fan of paintball being played well, you can very clearly see that DMG is a team that is built on communal ability.
For sure. Absolutely.
And I feel that Terry is a big part of that.
Yep.
Or Terry's understanding. Where does Terry come into the equation? And what's his involvement for those who don't know?
So that's a cool story in itself, even to me, because you know Terry, but for those who don't know Terry Fong, Terry is a triple OG legend in the game who came up not only as, you know, a pro player and eventually like coaching staff for Bob Long's Assassins, but he's also Bob Long, longtime head tech. So yes. He knows his guns. He's seen all of the little assets of paintball, you know, whether it's from the on-field aspect or the industry side. Terry's been involved in the game before our rookie player, Avenir, was born. Because he's born in 2000. So that's a weird thing to think about. When Av was just a twinkle in his dad's eye, Terry was on the field mowing people down and also running things behind the scenes.
And literally mowing people down. He was brutal.
Yeah. So when I first moved here, Terry was not part of the team. It wasn't until halfway through the 2018 season that we grabbed him.
Oh,
At first when we came, maybe not halfway through, it might have been right around the first event or two.
Right.
But when I moved here, like 2 months before the off season, Terry wasn't around. And then I remember they were like, man, we could really use like a coach. Like even if he doesn't like necessarily, because like most of the very best current top coaches are all taken or they're retired and don't want to do anymore. So we're just looking at like people and talking about ideas, and we're about to grab like random divisional coaches just to be a guy that the stuff we talk about, he can be the guy who's the singular voice, the chief of the Indians that calls it out, calls the line, and we all go with his word.
Sure.
Rather than us all wasting time democratically in the pits.
Sure.
And then they bring up Terry Fong's name. And I grew up around a lot of legends. Like, you know, my original coach was like Buddy Bauer from Detroit Thunder. And, you know,
gotta love like Buddy.
Rob Cole from Lockout.
Oh.
Like all of those old school names from like Lockout, Thunder, Tippmann Effect Rhythm were the guys in my area. And then, like, Tim Montresor was kind of nearby because of Philly Americans, only a few hours south of me. But I had never had the chance to, like, meet or talk to for any amount of time any of the West Coast legends.
Right.
Other than, like, an autograph signing as a kid, I had never really met Bob Long or Terry Fong or any of these guys. And one day, Terry Fong comes to the field. And I was like, holy shit, is that Terry Fong, you guys? They're like, oh, yeah, it's just Terry. Because to them, they all grew up around him when they were little kids coming to the field as D3 kids. Terry's still around, like, yelling at people and stuff. So I was like, what's Terry doing here? And they're like, we're thinking about having him be our coach. And I was like, the Bob Long legendary Tekken player is about to coach us? And they're like, yeah. And sure enough, Terry comes on just like that. Smooth transition. Came right in.
Wow. And what was Terry doing? Was Terry involved in paintball at all up to that point? As in, you know, was he coaching another team? Was he still playing? Or
not really. I heard he had involvement with DMG in the years past.
Right.
And people would tell me stories about him playing with, like, the D3 7-man team and winning, like, Huntington Beach 2011 and, like, just random events where, like, Terry's still playing. He's not playing every point. But he's out there just being the quarterback of like a bunch of young, talented kids winning D3 events. But I guess he had stepped away for quite a few years, you know, started doing his own thing, real life, work, family, blah, blah. And they just kind of brought him back. They're like, Terry, you know, we know you still love the game. Like, maybe it's time to put the old coaching cap back on and see what you can do with your old DMG kids now that, you know, the bunch of young Padawans you used to know as D3 players are all pro players.
I love it.
And I don't know what the full conversation was or how they convinced him to come back, but just like that, the dude came back, and you know, he's very much our manager as well. Like,
right,
you know, we're a bunch of kids. We only ever have a roster of 7 or 8 depending on the event. So It's good to have that older dude, other than Shane, so Shane can focus on his playing, that can kind of like handle just keeping us all together, getting to the hotels, blah, 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 because as you know, because you coach paintball teams too.
It's like
A
herding cats.
paintball team, it's like herding cats.
You
got a lot of different personalities.
Butterfly.
You got different stuff to do. At the event, on top of playing and scouting your own games, you also want to see all your buddies play. You want to watch some semi-pro and divisional games. There's a huge vendor area with all the new products to see. And there's all these people that you used to play against or a friendly rival with that you only get to see and catch up with 5 times a year.
Exactly right.
There's not enough time in the day.
Exactly. As a coach, does Terry have a lot of input, or does he just trust you guys know what you're doing?
There's like a mix, like and like I'm sure he knows this. Like Terry used to play in a different time of paintball. I have utmost respect for Terry.
Sure.
I love the dude. He's a great human being, a great manager, and he's a good leader. You know what I mean? He's good at being that loud, dominant voice that makes us all like, oh yeah, get our shit together, or listen to what he says. You know what I mean? But like, he came from a different era of paintball. Like, what worked back then, it's kind of like why Aftershock got relegated, because they just play like full speed ahead, aggressive attack paintball. Yeah. Well, that doesn't work now, especially on some layouts where it's almost
every time. No.
And zones, and there's bounce shots now. Like, this isn't hyperball anymore.
Yeah,
every team studies and finds 50 bounce shots a layout. So we play a game that he I'm sure he understands it, but he didn't himself learn to succeed and win at this level in this version of the game. So he's learning and getting better event to event. But, like, I don't think he knows as much as, like, let's say Shane Howe does, or, like, me and Josh are analyzing little parts of the field that, like, maybe guys who are in the old school version of wrap and go paintball don't quite see the same way, where it's almost better to retreat back and shoot a pod at a bunker until a bounce shot kills a guy than it is to go forward and not really have any actual advantage on this particular layout or the angle. So it's not like he's like the Dave Baines mind of our game. Dave and some of these other coaches, Mike Hinman, like those dudes, the way they pick apart the chess game that is paintball, the way the Russian Legion camp looks at playing a field, looking at moves, anticipating their moves, playing 2 or 3 check-ups ahead. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
I mean,
but he is good at seeing what the other team does, identifying what they're trying to do, and giving us like a general idea. And then because we all walk the field and prepare so much based off of his input, like the constant feedback of like what's happening during the game, we can make our own adjustments accordingly and audibles for the play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's very obvious how much he's enjoying being involved.
He does.
One of the coolest things I've seen is his Run DMG t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. I mean, it's just the t-shirt is only overshadowed by the smile on his face.
Yes.
And, that is everything that coaching a team should be. It shouldn't be laborious. It should be hard work, but it shouldn't be, there shouldn't be attrition. There should just be, and I think, what comes across the most is the mutual respect that you guys have for each other. Mm-hmm. And you can see, I think it's fascinating that you recognize the difference in the eras and how that translates into immediate results. But you also appreciate that the longer he's exposed to the new game, the more his ability and his understanding of how to play paintball, corresponds with greater results.
For sure.
Now,
it's just like us, I mean, we expect to succeed immediately. Obviously, we're going to age over time like a fine wine, and we're going to get better with more and more experience. Well, we have to expect the same out of somebody who, when they played and coached professional, it was a different game with mechs and then with gun shooting unlimited. And then the last time we played paintball, it was a D3, and now he's coming back and trying to coach at the fastest paced version of the sport on earth in the U.S. where it's the most competitive. I can't I can't ask anybody to just come in and immediately give us a team of rookies the formula to just start going to Sunday and winning constantly. That would be unrealistic. But what he
100%.
does in his progress event to event is astounding. And we know he's an intelligent guy, so we know it's only going to get better. And we know that just like any other team that I've talked to that moved up, you don't just think like you're going to come in and win. A few teams did that. Like Damage did it back in the day. X Factor did it when they came in. But for the most part, it's like a 3-year plan. Like come in, get used to the pace. Next year, start making Sunday and get consistent. Start banging with the top tier teams consistently. 3rd year, get on the podium, win by the end of the year. So I think by next season, or even by the end of this season, Terry will have not only his idea of like all of his personnel strengths and weaknesses and how to best use them and shift them around layout to layout, but how to adapt like his formula to any layout of field. Not just like, okay, well, this is what we ended up with working on that last layout, and this layout kind of has those similarities. So it's not going to be exactly the same, but here's the parts of the puzzle that I'm going to sew into it, and we'll all together work on, based on input in the practices, how to like fine-tune those other little pieces to make that like that really good formula that once again wins.
And it's such a deep topic of conversation as well. It's, I've completely changed my approach this season of coaching. And I've literally drawn a line under, I am never going to teach people to play a layout. I am going to teach them to play paintball. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to, broaden horizons. And the more I can teach a player or a group of players to play what's in front of them, the better they will perform consistently. Because with the best will in the world, you could have an outstanding event 2 on the snake side, on the D side, in the center. When that layout changes, and for whatever reason you don't have the ability to, do what you want to do, players struggle. And frustration comes in. The mental side of the equation becomes paramount, in my opinion. And, you're no longer questioning your ability to shoot people on the break. You're no longer questioning your ability to snap shoot people or run and gun or whatever. It is, or any physical attribute. It's mentally how you deal with things not working.
Yes.
And also how you deal with things that are really working. We've seen a lot of comeback games in the past 18 months where teams have mentally just relaxed and allowed the other team to come back in. I mean, with it being Philly this week, you've got a huge Friday ahead of you in that your 2 prelim games are Russian Legion and X Factor, which is ridiculous. I mean, they're 2 of the most consistent teams in the league at the moment. I mean, this is kind of like, how does it feel to be days away from that prospect?
It's exciting, at this point.
Yeah.
Not even for me, but I can say for my whole team, including the rookies after the last event, who we've all gained confidence in, and they've gained confidence from playing and making it to Sunday and playing.
Right.
We're composed. I don't think anybody's jittery or nervous. Okay. Nobody's starstruck anymore, of course, but like I don't think anybody's like, oh man, let's just try to keep the game close. Like I hope our beating isn't too bad with Russian Legion, because we know we can bang with any top tier team now.
100%.
And we have the ability to win if we don't make those tiny mistakes. I don't think we're worried about getting out gun fought or being out prepared, because we do a lot of homework and a lot of studying, and we practice more than most pro teams. Like I'd say the teams
your sparring
really
partners are Impact, right?
Yeah. And we live near our field, so we're allowed to drill during the week. So, I mean, I think the only teams that I know play more times on a layout than us would be like Russian Legion and AC Dallas.
Right.
Aside from that, plenty of the other teams just do the basic, Saturday, Sunday, next Saturday, Sunday. Some of the teams miss a weekend.
Yeah.
I know a few teams who missed the first weekend on this layout, and they're going to go to the event with 1 weekend in. And man, good luck too,
That's
because
tough,
you're
right?
probably going to know 10 less bounce shots than we are. And at the way our game is played nowadays with zones and bounce shots, you can almost negate a really, really talented attacking player out of the game in just your teamwork and how you shoot to contain them rather than directly engaging them. So if they can have players who are technically a little bit more talented than some of our players, but if they're not as prepared as Team B, Team B will beat them just because they're playing the field correctly. And the other team is hoping to win off of winning gunfights and shooting people out of bunkers rather than playing the field the way it's supposed to play.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you put Berdnikov anywhere, and he makes the best of what's in front of him.
Hands down.
You put, let's say, 60% of the remaining players in the same situation, and they're looking one-dimensionally at their opportunities. Yep. So, Friday, Russian Legion, first game for you, Friday afternoon. And then you finish with X Factor. Conversely, Saturday, you have PC Katana and Trade My Gun Outlaws, I believe.
Yeah.
A lot of teams would probably, or a lot of players rather, would probably think, I wish I had the lower caliber teams first to warm up and get into the event. I think off the back of event 2, where you guys perform so much better, there's the potential for the Russian Legion game and the X Factor game to feel like an extension of event 2, albeit on a different layout. Mm-hmm. Mentally, this is like, if you'd won that last match, this could be who you were facing.
Yeah.
Is that the approach that you guys are having, or is it just a new day, we're going at it with whatever?
It's kind of a mix.
Okay.
We are continuing to roll with the momentum of how we did last event.
Yeah.
Backtracking, first event of the season, getting our used to our rebuild, getting some of the guys new experience, and however we do, we just know we have to improve from there. Next event, not even just improving, but coming back way better, going 3-1, topping our bracket, moving on,
way better,
and losing by 1 point on one little miscommunication mistake to Heat knocks us out. Other than that, I thought we were outplaying them. We were shooting more guys off break. Our team play was great. We weren't losing gunfights. We lost because 2 different guys miscommunicated a body count, and a guy that we didn't think was there shot a bunch of people moving.
There we go.
He literally, good job on him, Sam Monville, had him swivel, great, landed his shots, but it wasn't like he won a bunch of gunfights. He shot a bunch of people that didn't even know he was there because we thought it was only the other guy behind him. And that was the difference in that game.
Crazy, isn't it?
I feel like at that point, we know what we're capable of when we're firing on all cylinders and we are connecting together as a unit. And we're not worried about missing 2 of our better players from last season anymore, because at this point we know it's more about how we operate as a team. And we know that when we're putting out the proper, the identity that DMG is going to be that event, like the starting 5, maybe 6 that have been playing most cohesively on the layout, that becomes like the identity of your team each event. It's really hard to do line 1, line 2,
sure,
or rotate big rosters. So every one of the top tier teams, you kind of see the 5 guys that are representing that team each event, and maybe there's a 6th and 7th that get in specialty plays.
Sure.
So once we realized what that was, the best version of ourselves was, and what we had to do to consistently go out there and win points, whether we were losing a guy off break, whether we were in the tough, nitty-gritty close points, or we were just closing points that we were winning immediately off the break.
Yeah.
Once we figured out how to do that and we saw, this is what it's like, it's almost like you can't unlearn that. Now you just have to remember what it was like to do all those little things, to put in the hard work, but also remember to connect, to say every piece of information, to get the kill, but slow down and say what you know before you just rush to close. to take your time and be methodical in every little aspect. And even in the 1-on-5, why give that last really talented player a chance? Like, if you're just constantly making no mistakes, then there's no chance for the other team to have a talented player catch people slipping and maybe come back.
Exactly.
And it could look slow and boring. And that's kind of what we were last event. You know, we looked like AC Dallas of seasons past, where most of our matches were like 2-1, 3-1, like really slow, long, drawn out points. But we made very, very few mistakes.
I love the fact that when your initial reaction for how you're feeling about Friday is that you're excited. For most teams, most players out there will never get the chance to play Russian Legion. They will never get the chance to play X Factor, let alone both of them in the same day. Yeah, they dream of obviously playing them in the finals and beating them, but in terms of adding experience, especially with a relatively young squad of, a couple of guys who played semi-pro in recent years, and, everybody who was playing semi-pro 2 years ago. This is such a great opportunity to continue that growth. Out of the two matches, Legion and X Factor, which do you relish the most, or do you relish them both for different reasons?
Russian Legion, hands down.
Straight in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people would agree with that, unless you're an X Factor like fanboy, like you grew up in Texas. And that's not meant disrespectfully, because all the respect to X Factor, that's a great team. That's a team that we haven't beat yet. I think we've played them 2 or 3 times in the last season and a half. They're another one of those just nonstop, solid, competing for the podium teams, and they're incredible. They have dynamic players. Their team game is awesome. Their communication's awesome. They have all the tools necessary. Good break shooters, great attackers, and their clutch level is phenomenal in guys like Richie and Cole. But what separates Russians from any team, and it's why I relish playing against Russians over any other team, it didn't matter if it was X Factor, Dynasty, Impact, Heat, whatever, is not only are they fundamentally almost as close to perfect as you can get from just drilling all the time and the reball facility and that, but their team play is the pinnacle of our sport. Like, that is a team that has an entire staff of coaches and athletic trainers and a huge budget and every resource you could ever want. It's like if you were a billionaire and you could mold your own dream team, you would do what Russian Legion did, where it's not even like you would just find all the best athletes in your country, but you would give them every resource and all the possible time to practice and hone their skill sets, and then coaches to tell them how to do it together. And when you play against them, you can tell it's like that, because even I think they're very sound at every part of the physical part of the game, but I can gunfight with those dudes. And I'm trying to say that humbly, but I've played against them plenty of times now from DMG and Damage, and I played them this last offseason in the indoor event in Malaysia, and we only lost them by a point in 2 different games, like one to go on for finals and one in prelims. And I am never scared of gunfighting those dudes for dominance and shooting them quite a bit of times.
Right.
But that's not what makes them tough, is even though they will fight you because they know they're good at it, what's tough is when they know that it's not worth the risk, because they calculate the probability of plays, of gunfights in certain bunkers. You have more edges than their bunker, Dorito to the cancel a guy. When they let you off, you already know that they have a plan B, C, and D.
Exactly.
And you know that if nobody's shooting at you, it's because somebody else is somewhere that nobody was able to see them move, and he's baiting you. That's the only reason nobody is putting lane in front of your next bunker, is because they've already set up a trap for you. And if you figure out that they have made that counterpunch to your play, and you go to counter their counter, they have somebody else waiting to counter your counter. Like, they think so in depth into the game
Yeah.
that it blows my mind. I love watching it and trying to like critically break it down and analyze it whenever I'm like scouting their games, because I'm like, wait, why would he go to that bunker? Nobody yet has played that stupid pin in the middle of the field. Oh, wait, because he knows he lost his guy going here. And he knows that if he lost his guy going here, their player naturally is going to make the textbook move to come here.
Go. Exactly.
Because that's where he's going to close the game. So he's going to expect that if he puts in the back guy, he's going to make this move for free. He's never going to expect to check off this stupid bunker that should never be doing this job. And that's where their thinking is.
Yeah, it's light years ahead. Yeah,
it is. It's light years ahead.
Now,
so when you get to play them, even if you lose, if you go point for point with Russian Legion, why I love and relish playing those games is because you know that you have to play your most perfect paintball.
What's really interesting as well is Kirill and the guys are probably the first to admit they don't always get it right. In that, they lost prelim games.
Yeah.
And they still make changes as they go. Yeah. I think one of the luxuries they have is undoubtedly the coaching staff and the depth of coaching staff. The other luxury they have that I think a lot of people overlook is they've probably got a decade of footage of every team playing.
Yes.
So it's like going into Philly and they're playing DMG. They probably have 40, 50 hours of tape of DMG playing.
Yep.
They know how Joe Barrett likes to play. They know how Josh likes to play. They know how Marvin likes to play, etc. And they're very good at, as you rightly say, calculating the odds for this player in this role is most likely to do this, that, or the other.
Correct.
And that's, that's huge.
That's huge. I think a lot of teams scout other teams. This is something we do too, but obviously not to their level. They always have that older gentleman up in the corner of the grandstands with the camera every
what
event.
What should we call him? Let's give him a name. He is Master Shifu.
Yoda. He's the Master
Russian
Jedi.
Yoda. Yeah.
Yeah, Russian Yoda. I forget his name too. I know him too, and he's such a nice guy.
He is a really nice guy.
I got to become pretty close friends with all the Russian guys at that Malaysia event because we're all just riding a scooter gang around the island and getting to hang out. So it was cool to meet those dudes on a personal level and realize they're not all just the serious robotic competitors that you see at the events. A lot of them are actually goofballs.
Super cool guys. But I think at the events, it's a job for them.
Yeah.
As in, it is a professional responsibility, is what I mean by that. Regardless of the fact of whatever people get paid or, whatever, they take professional paintball to a new level in terms of the responsibility. It's very rare that you will see them do anything untowards, on or off the field. And if they do, they almost have that, Japanese approach of, we've dishonored ourselves, etc. And we have to make amends. They take their responsibility within the community very seriously. And I like that a lot.
Me too.
And I hope players and other teams, appreciate and emulate that as we go forward. Mm-hmm. I think Russian Legion, I'm pleased you answered Russian Legion because not that I think they're more deserving than X Factor, but because it's your first match, it hinges back to the staying in the present. Because I'm sure that once the Russian Legion match is done, the focus goes on X Factor.
Yes.
Before we jump to that, in Russian Legion, do you see it as a communal threat? Or is it like, we got to lock down Berdnikov, Kirill, Golev, Sergey, Karsilev, it's like you're
tough.
Up against it.
Because they play as one cohesive machine. And just like any machine, robot, engine, all the parts in that machine have to be operating perfectly for the machine to run the way it does. And you see the way they move down the field, where it's like wherever their advantage is, whichever side you're short on, you see their team like break out and then kind of like spread and like triangulate to properly pinch out and fold the other team, generally one by one like dominoes.
Yeah.
Unless guys just have poor survivability and they're losing gunfights and dying randomly, they generally immediately win most breakouts. They win breakouts. And whichever spot they have the advantage on, you see them fold the other team one side to the other.
Yeah.
They're very good at that. And that's the way I've always preached, like coaching the teams that I train, is like figure out which side you have short, and that's the side you should A, trap and make sure they don't get wide, spread the field and slow the game down again.
100%.
And B, win down that side. And Russians do it flawlessly.
Yes.
And they do it very well because they break shoot very well. So they either hit a guy off break or they force you to respect a certain lane, and it makes you stop short. I remember, we had played Russian Legion a lot on damage. Like they would come and practice here and there.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was still kind of their rebuild. Like their young up and coming rookies were getting better and better all the time, but they weren't where they are now. So at the time, like at least my opinion, it was like, okay, after the breakout, 4 Russian Legion players are going to do jobs and they're going to do it exceptionally well. And then Varindikov's just going to take the ball and figure out where the seam is to go attack. And you saw him do it a lot for like 2 or 3 seasons where like their front guy wasn't necessarily the guy doing damage.
No.
He would go to certain spots and then get to the wide part of the field so that like he could either wrap, turn the field in on the side if they were short, or if they weren't short in front of him, he would shoot crossfield and trap the other side's front guy and keep him short. And once they had their job set up, and now it was very tough to move against 4 guys covering all the zones, Varindikov would just kind of look around, read the field, normally from back center, and then just fill right past people and go to wherever was needed.
He is the consummate professional when it comes to playing what's in front of you. Let's get some predictions, Joe. What's the score going to be against Russian Legion?
Man,
because I'm gonna graft and get this edited and out on Friday.
So honestly,
this will go out before you play, probably.
There's 2 ways that we could play them. We could play them, one, as slow as possible so that there's less points and our teamwork gives us a better chance to play the game that we're good at. Or 2, we could just throw stuff at them because it's the first freaking game they've seen. It's the first game they've seen of our new style in this tournament and on this layout, and they haven't seen how we play this layout. And maybe in several points, we'll figure out what is working that they just haven't adapted to yet, and we just kind of keep throwing attacks at them. You know what I mean?
I'd go option 2 for what it's worth.
I think so too. And this is a weird part I've thought about too, because once again, like, you know me as a person, I have to know that, like, I am very positive. I believe in myself. I know that me and my team believe in us, so I have to believe in. But I'm also a critical thinker enough to know that, like, on paper, if we were going to lose any of our 4 matches, this is the match that you would lose.
Sure.
Like, this is the team that won the last 3 events. So I can already see bandwagon predictions. Like, this is going to be like 80-20 on Russians winning this game. Probability states the team that's coming off of 3 event wins is probably going to beat the up-and-coming rookie team. And in that aspect, maybe we just go at them fearlessly, and win or lose, we figure out what does work in the points that we win against them. And if it works against Russian Legion, now we should be able to win against X Factor and the 2 lower-ranked teams.
There you go.
I almost just use it as like the experimental match, because it's like, guys, we should lose this one anyways. Not that I don't believe we can win, but we should lose this one.
Statistically,
so let's just attack and see what kind of attacks work on this field against the very best break shooters on earth.
I like that. So you're clocking in for a win against Russian Legion?
I mean, I think we can win. I think if we do win, it's going to be
Give it. In fact, this is better than a predicted scoreline. Give us a plus or minus. So if you think
Plus
we're going to
one.
win, +1.
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
X factor.
Man. the tough part about these is we've had 1 point.
I know, it's like, and this is,
and both those teams have blew us out because all of
Yeah.
a sudden we spiraled out of control with penalties.
Yeah.
So it sucks to like predict a close game or a win, and then what if things go bad? And I hate to live in the what if. You can't have fear control.
oh, there's so much you can't control. This is the wonderful inconsistency of pro paintball, right?
It's true. Anything can happen. So if we beat Russian Legion, I feel confident that then we would beat X Factor by 2 or more.
Oh, plus
They are
2.
scrappy, and you never know what you're going to get out of them. If we beat Russian Legion, granted,
this is-
X Factor would watch that game and they would be able to scout us and kind of see what we did to beat them. But just being able to beat the most prepared team in paintball currently, I think then we would beat X Factor by 2. And I think that then we would come in hot and beat the next 2 teams, which are the easier teams on paper.
Sure.
Any pro paintball can beat any other team on any given day. If they're playing hot and the other team, even if one of the top teams has an off day, any of the bottom teams can beat them. They're all good players and they all know what they're doing. It's just the consistency. But
So,
if we beat those 2 teams, then we should be able to decisively beat the bottom 2 teams.
if you have a good Friday, you could look at a 4-0
True.
for the prelims.
But you know what? Although that's a thing that a lot of teams would look forward to, I've said it a million times, I'd rather go 3-1.
Okay. If you went 3-1, who would you prefer the loss to be to?
I would prefer it to be right off the bat to Russians because
Would you?
that means that we've lost to the team that we should lose to, and they would probably show us a far more technical way to play the field than most teams have figured out,
Okay.
which we then thread into our own play style to win those next 3. And then in that loss, now we've seen the possibilities of what can be on this field, and we'll be a little more for Sunday. Whereas if we go to Sunday 4-0, like even if the games are close, if we haven't been tested and had to like, whoa, guys, we really need to rethink this, or like, how did we lose that game? Okay, what would be our counter to beat that next time? Or how that team held off and we couldn't quite tie it up. What would have been the way to do it? Like if we don't get to have those conversations,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many tournaments I've seen where the team that goes 4-0 and are kind of sitting a little cocky coming out of their bracket at the top go into
100%.
Sunday and they lose to the team that A, just woke up and had to fight their way out of the wild card bracket, so they're already warmed up, and B, they're in kill mode. Like they're nitty gritty. They've had some wins, they've had some losses, but they're playing that win the close game paintball. And now they run into a team that just everything seems to be working, and all of a sudden they run into
Crazy,
a team
right?
that's not working, and they go from losing the first point to losing every point because they haven't had to adjust yet.
Prediction, then. Prediction time. Who's going to win the event? In fact, pick the final. Who do you think will be playing off in the final? Because obviously, Russians have had a great start to the year. X Factor, AC Dallas, Impact, Heat, Dynasty have all had their moments in the sun, but are yet to really shine. Training with Impact must give you an insight into how frustrated I imagine they are with their current results this year. In that, they are seasoned professionals who know that they are capable of winning. For whatever reason, it's just not happening at this moment in time so far this season. They are just, they have to go through that dip in confidence. They have to go through that transitionary period where you question things that you wouldn't question when you were winning. Whether it's, I wore the wrong socks. Is this paint shooting as good as the paint we had last event? Whatever it is. Yeah? There's frustrations for not achieving what you know you're capable of achieving.
Yeah.
So with that insight, who do you pick? You know, and conversely as well, you've got the younger teams like Aftermath, who came third at event 1 and then sucked at event 2. I think they finished last, right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the high and the low in consecutive events.
Crazy.
Yeah. This is... We don't have the crystal ball of who's going to step up and perform. But what's your gut instinct of, will the Russian dominance continue? Will we see them make a consecutive finals appearance? Or do you think this field layout, this event, this time, we're going to see something completely random happen?
Oh, man. It is tough because our sport is
top
unique.
4. Because I think we're going to see some difference, a significant difference.
I feel like my team and NYX too, actually, I got to say, show flashes of greatness.
Yeah.
When they're on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When they're on, like you see it with NYX, where sometimes they beat top tier teams, or they have 1-point games right when it matters with Houston Heat or something like that.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, both those teams can bang as long as they're not getting penalties and they're playing the layout correctly. They have all the talented players. The heart and the tenacity is there, and I think that's a big thing that's catching some of our teams up, and some of the teams that haven't won in a while, but they are up there in that top 8.
Sure.
You know, it's not that I don't think Impact are doing anything wrong. That, like, why aren't we winning anymore recently? I think it's just it's harder to stay on top than it is to get there.
100%.
Getting there is tough, but how do you stay the dominant alpha bull when there's all these other up and coming rowdy bulls underneath you that they saw you win that last fight?
Yeah.
And they're just studying you for their chance to step up and face you.
Exactly. And all they want to do is beat you.
Once you've showed us how to play the game properly, because paintball is always evolving. It seems like season to season, even if it's minimal evolution, since like the last one, which would be like bounce shots.
Yeah.
Like there is no textbook way to do it like in other sports that have been around for like 80 years. Like, we are constantly on the cutting edge as the current pro players of molding our sport to the next level and figuring out how to bypass what we're doing currently. And when a team has done it successfully for 2 or 3 seasons, it's only a matter of time before the other teams either duplicate that formula or, better yet, figure out a way to break it. You know, like paintball is just very high-speed problem solving with guns. And I think other teams are figuring out how to solve the problem of the elite powerhouse that is Impact. You know, they did it when there was Heat. They did it that season there was Arc Chaos. Yep. So I think Russian Legion is kind of becoming that team, because now they aren't just a team of excellent cogs in the machine. Their rookies have become elite level individuals. Like, dude, Karslev and Samotrev are like freaking John Wicks out there. Like, those dudes, I take a lot of pride in my own gunfighting ability and like snap shooting, running and gunning, and being able to hit a target pretty easily. Those dudes are unbelievably fast, like probably some of the faster guys in the league. And at full run and gun, they just smoke dudes out of back center who are standing still shooting lanes at them. Yeah. Like, they're incredible. So when you put pieces like that into your machine, well, now not only is your machine operating smoothly like it should, but each piece is so hard to break. Now it's a very tough team. So, like, I kind of do foresee Russians going into finals again, unless there's major hiccups or a ton of penalties, just because it's not like they're at this point where it's tough to stay on top. They're on their momentum swing. Like, they've learned what it takes to get there, and now they just need to continue improving that formula, and I think they'll be able to get away with it for several seasons, maybe even, or several events, and maybe even a few seasons.
Oh, really?
Till the next batch of teams catch up to them.
Oh, see, that's interesting. See, I think that every event they win, the pressure increases. and the level of expectation increases. And I think that's what will be the hardest hurdle to overcome.
Yeah. Well,
because
I agree.
Even the most humble of players recognizes the fact that they've won and relishes to some degree the achievement that they've accomplished. And it's an appetite that needs feeding. And I think, especially if you've won 3 events consecutively, there is a level of expectation for that next event, regardless.
Agreed. To me, the Russians don't quite have that same flaw that other teams have, where they will let it go to their head, or they will become complacent and content and be like, oh, this is as hard as we had to work, let's just keep winning doing this. Whereas other teams might get that. To me, what I think, and I remember it used to be their issue in years past when they were getting successful and making top 4 again, and then the next event they wouldn't make Sunday. I remember there was a time when they played something crazy, like 17 days straight for a World Cup, which they had done quite a few times for events.
Sure.
They just came to the U.S. right before the first layout weekend and played the entire time, rested a day or two, then played World Cup.
Yeah.
And what their problem was, like I remember, like we were all talking about it, watching them play the layout wrong, and we're like, why are they playing the layout right like this? Well, because they had played each other line on line so many times, they went from figuring out the way to play the field right to, well, if this is how teams are going to play it, let's counter this. But let's say those smart teams figure this out. Here's the counter to the counter. And they got so far into it that now they're not shooting for the wide guys anymore.
Right.
Because they're thinking teams are going to play short. And now when they're getting used to teams playing short in the pocket, they're starting to shoot the really technical 2 balls off at the short shots for like the bunkers in the pocket. And now they're thinking teams are avoiding that and diving to those. So they're doing like 3 up the center punches and like baiting moves to the stupid bunker that nobody goes to. So then they get to the field and they're prepared for anything at the tournament. But no teams are doing that. Teams aren't thinking that far ahead.
No,
so they're prepared for the counter to their counter, and teams are just playing the field the way the original, like how the field was supposed to play. So like they overplayed it and had so many like reps that they, instead of like thinking like, I could see it, from when we play too many reps, we're like, guys, we're going through the motions. How can we play this more creatively? But that probably happened to them so many times that they just started way overthinking the layout. And then they got to the field, and now they're just getting shot off break going to the wide spots. And it's like, well, do you not remember the original way the field is supposed to play?
Yeah.
No, you've overthought it 5 times by now. So I think that could be the eventual downfall of Russians, where like paranoia in their mind of like, oh man, we've won, like, let's say they win 10 events in a row, and they're like, man, can we keep doing this? I don't know. I think teams are going to figure out a formula, and they start overthinking it, and they just change everything too much.
So if you had to pick a winner for Philly, who's it going to be?
My top 4 for Philly would be Russians, AC, Impact, and I want to put us up there, but if I'm not allowed to choose our own team...
No, you can. You can choose whoever you want. No rules here.
You know what? I don't want to jinx us.
Okay.
Confidence, I know what I want in my own head.
Okay.
But if I had to choose other teams and to not jinx us, I think NYX might come out swinging this event.
Oh. See, I think I got a couple of those teams in my top 4. I think this is the event the Russians don't make top 4.
Really?
This is the event Impact do.
Okay.
I think AC Dallas will be there, but I don't think they'll win. I think Dynasty go back to top 4, and I think the wild card is going to be Revo.
Why Reva?
They just have a work ethic that other teams don't, and a level of accountability. I think off the back of a solid, the main reason is off the back of a solid practice with impact. I feel that they will have learned as much as they would learn in a normal Friday of an NXL.
Agreed.
So, and this is without, in fact, I should look at who they have to play, but I haven't. So they play Infamous first, Friday morning, and then they play New York Extreme. So two games they're capable of winning. Then they play Boom, and then they have a final match against AC Dallas, which puts them in a great place. So,
Yeah.
I think Revo's my wild card pick for a top 4.
Okay. That's respectable. I mean, that's a team that's capable of being a Sunday and moving on team at any given time. I thought I saw holes in their overall roster and play style last event.
I would agree entirely with that.
I'm not going to say they're one-dimensional, but I'll say it right off the top, and I have respect to all their players. They have a lot of talented dudes. But currently, it seems like they rely on O'Mara to be their main attacker,
O'Mara's killing it,
machine, and their creative game closer.
Yeah.
So if you figure out a way to shoot O'Mara off break, or you shut him down, it's not like a lot of the other guys can't do it. So last team in trailer, some of those guys, they have a lot of winnability too, but it's like dealing with any other pro player. Right now, the guy that's emerging for them is O'Mara, and the other guys almost don't realize when it's like, hey, he's stopped, so now the ball's on you. And if they do, they just haven't been consistent at doing it.
And this is off the back of a weird second event for them. Like you say, O'Mara did a lot of the heavy lifting, but, Zaleski didn't get as many spins as I thought he would, etc.
Yeah.
So I think there was a level of unfamiliarity on that roster that they wouldn't normally have. I think Dave Painter runs a tight ship though, and with Matt Sosman coaching, I think it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah,
and this is without Derula clocking in either.
Oh, he's not playing this event?
Well, I don't think he's really contributed in the fashion that we've seen him contribute in previous seasons. When Derula gets his head back on straight, I think they're a team that can't be taken too lightly.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And because similar to the Russians, I'm someone who watches not just a team, but players and player tendencies.
Sure.
Well, this 2, if he loses one, plays defense, but this 2 just continues the attack.
Exactly.
I look at every player in the league, and I can tell you what most guys are going to do, or I can predict how they want to play.
Yeah. Except
for guys like Barrett who are just too creative. But last event, I guess even from a coaching standpoint, you wouldn't play Zaleski as much or any of your powerhouse snake ones because that snake was irrelevant.
Correct.
Nobody would take it off break, and even if you made it, it wasn't that powerful compared to playing a second guy up the center in those big wedges. So a lot of teams really dominant snake ones didn't really shine a lot. Even the very best, let's say Goldman or Chad George is a snake one, and he would play that back tower. So that was a very team play, what's your mid-game layout, and you had to have almost more role players on the field than attackers.
100%. Yeah. And this is
usable. So you could get your let's go snake off break and do some damage from in the snake.
It's 100%.
You could get that guy back out there this or that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, I think a lot of the process as well of allowing players to perform is ensuring that it's still fun for them. Very few of these guys are, rookie years. They're all, even the Russians who have got through this 3-year rookie phase, they're all seasoned professionals now. It's a job for them. And as a coach for the Russians, I think the biggest challenge would be the fact of, how do we get the consistency? This isn't just, keep punching this way. You gotta do all the background stuff that enables you to keep punching as hard. It's going to be a great event. I wish you and the rest of DMG every bit of luck and everything that you deserve going into it. I think there's going to be a very exciting webcast to watch for anyone who isn't there.
I appreciate it. I think it's going to be a blast. I think this layout can definitely produce bloodbath matches where you can attack well from both sides. Yes. There's not necessarily overpowered bunker, overpowered side of the field. So a lot of guys will get chances to shine, and yet it still takes teamwork. You could still slow this field. So I think the teams that play the most connected and cohesively are going to shine and, last through the tough matches and move on. I believe in us. Letting on to some things because this won't get let out to the event. We only really practiced our semi-pro team in Uprising this event.
Ooh,
which played a ton of points, but that last event, something I felt moved us on in Sunday was because we were so prepared from getting so many looks. We played Thunder, Elevation, Dynasty, Impact, and our semi-pro team. So we got 5 different looks. Whereas this one, I don't feel like we've seen as many play styles. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how Russian Legion play, because they'll play the field properly. And I think if we adjust and use that as learning whether we're winning or losing, that'll be crucial for us. I think you're going to see some upsets from what I hear at practices.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
We'll see how your Revo prediction does.
Let's see. I think Revo are one of these teams who, much like DMG, they're due better results than they're getting. Mm-hmm. And, I think they maybe have, because of the back story of, 187 crew, I think they may be due it slightly earlier than DMG, if you take that into account. But then on current work rate and approach, DMG are fast-tracking themselves into a position where, who's to say they can't make top 4?
Honestly, I feel like that would be our progression on the bar chart, which once again is what I'm at least happy with that, because, there's a lot of these teams in the league that have been in for several years now, and they can't seem to get that last gear or that last part of their game. They're really good at a lot of facets of the game, but not adaptive enough to all of them, or they're all defensive player, they're all aggressive, and they just can't get to Sunday. And I'm wondering when those teams are going to become, consistently competitive. It would be nice to see a full 20 teams that could all win on any given day, rather than just the 3 to 5 that you expect, and then some that could possibly come in once or twice a season.
I think we're entering a new phase here of professional paintball. I think the old guard is being forced to adapt, or decide this is no longer for me. I think the new generation of up-and-coming pro players and up-and-coming semi-pro players is taking their responsibilities, to heart, and actually making those changes, not just in, on-field stuff, it's the off-field stuff.
Agreed.
It's the being more approachable at events. It's the, and anybody who's watching this who's going to Philly this weekend, if you see Joe, stop him and chat, because if you don't, he'll stop you and chat. So that's how it goes. I'm super mindful, bud, that it's almost 4 a.m. where you are.
It is. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't care. I don't have to fly out to Philly till like 2:30 tomorrow, so I could have kept talking all night.
What I think we should do, this is like, if you're up for it, let's do a post-Philly chat. And what I'd actually like to do, if you'd like, is a bit of a kind of a layout breakdown from somebody who played the event in the pros.
I would love to do that.
Because I think, this layout is obviously going to be used at other leagues and other events. So, thank you so much for spending a couple of hours chatting, sharing, spreading the word. I'm going to add links to your blog and everything in the description. Any final shout outs you'd like to give before we sign off?
Yeah, I guess at this point I could do the shameless plugs part.
100%.
Yeah. Number one, shout out to all my sponsors, Capital Edge Paintball Park and Dave Baines, who supports us and gives us the facility to become the team that we are becoming. Thank you to our gun sponsor, Planet Eclipse. CS2's best marker on earth right now, hands down. Freaking love this gun. Thank you to GI for our gear and, of course, the paint. We couldn't shoot and win games without you. And thanks to our new apparel and jersey sponsor this season, Weapons. I think AKA Raza, one the same. But we love your gear. Our jerseys, we are so happy with our Kings jerseys. Trying to think if we have anybody else who supports us. If I do, I apologize.
Look at your loader, Joe.
What's that? Virtue. Yes, thank you. I forgot this season we switched over to Virtue, and happy to be using the Spire 3. I got to use this a season before DMG, and I love this loader. Just foolproof, tool-proof. I love it.
Final question for you, Joe. As it's Philly, and you guys probably all leave over the next 24 hours, whose responsibility is it to put the trash out on Thursday?
I think I leave last. Most of the guys leave early in the morning tomorrow, so I probably leave last, being here in the afternoon, so I have to remember to do it.
Dude, double up on that Post-it note.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to put my phone charger there, so I have to grab it and look and be like, oh, yeah, okay. I have to do reminders like that. Lastly, shout out to DMG, my whole personal team. You guys that are my teammates are the reason that I moved here to California and, chased a different facet of life to continue this rabbit hole that is professional paintball and the dream reality we get to experience. Thank my entire divisional camp for being the sponges and students that we get to imprint our game into. I thank all my friends and family and all the fans for the constant support and outpour of love. I love you guys all so much. And thank you, Nikki T, for being the man you are, legend in our sport. The invitation to join you and do this and get a nice flowing dialogue. And lastly, for anybody out here who gets to watch this, I hope you get to watch this. I hope you get to follow my blog. Stay positive. Be the positivity that you want to see in this world. You have the decision right now that you can make consciously to be a change to everybody around you, and to only speak positively, and to only do things that affect your world in a good way. And whatever it is you're dreaming of, professional paintball, professional golf, it doesn't matter. Follow your dream. Follow the hell out of it right now. See how far that rabbit hole goes now while you have the chance, because you can always fall back on everything else as your backup plan. But you only get this one life to live. So make sure at the end of it, you're not that guy who went, man, I wish I had more than 2 weeks a year to go do the things that I want to do. I wish I would have done that thing that I dreamed of when I was a little kid. I wish I would have went and visited that place that's a screensaver on my computer.
Exactly. Big high five to that, Joe. That's phenomenal. So, thank you again, buddy. Best of luck for Philly NXL, and I hope that everything goes to plan. Enjoy the rabbit hole.
Thanks, Nicky T. Hope to see you soon.
Look forward to it, buddy.